First off, I just want to say thank you for 1k. It does mean a lot to me, I promise you. I never thought I would have hit it this quick, especially on what I can only describe as a niche fading side of YouTube. Anyway, it's been a fun ride. I've learned a lot from it and I promise you I'm only going to get better from here. A huge thank you to Zether too. Loki carried me for about 3/4 of my subscribers, I'm pretty sure. And sorry that this video has taken so long to come out. And as you can probably tell by the runtime, this is a lot longer than usual. Either way, I'm going to finally get into the intro. Thank you once more. Megumi Potential Man Fushiguro. Where do I even start with this guy? I used to love this guy. Loved his technique, loved his fighting style. His power can rival Gojo's. Okay, bet. He pops a domain in season 1. Damn, okay, I see you. Megumi stocks used to be so high. How the mighty fall. As you probably know, the 10 Shadows technique is versatile. It can cover all your bases and is cracked. And because that bum Megumi didn't use it right, I'm gonna give it to someone who will. Other than Sukuna. Hope you end up liking this. Like regular, if you end up liking this, drop a like, subscribe, and comment. And while you're down there, check out the playlist in the description and the Spotify linked in the comments. All that out the way, let's get right into it. Deku in this timeline would be a lot similar to in canon. Kinda quiet, not really the out there type. Growing up with his mum, Inko, alone in the same house as in canon, everything would stay pretty much the same up until the age of 4. Deku watches as everyone unlocks their quirks around him. Long fingers, fire, explosions. Deku was jealous and low-key a little bit envious, trying day in and day out to unlock his quirk with no luck. As the years go on, Deku begins losing hope. From the age of 4 to the age of 6, Deku tried everything he could to unlock it, still getting nowhere. At around this time, Deku and Bakugo begin their normal dynamic as in canon. Bakugo finally getting sick of Deku being a quirkless loser would begin to bully him. Deku kinda being lost and still clinging to his dream with Loki just take it. Never really feeling any type of way about it. And due to this, Bakugo would begin doing more and more to try and get a reaction out of him. Around a year would go by and eventually everything begins to weigh on Deku. How mean Bakugo was, why he even picked on him, why was he even doing this anyways? If you're powerful you should protect the weak, not the other way around. From there, his confusion turned to anger a little bit. One day, while Deku was sitting on the playground, he watches Bakugo pick on another kid. As he watches on, something inside him would unlock. The feelings he had been holding down all these years begin to boil up. Seeing Bakugo bully him was one thing, but to others was a whole different bag of worms. Deku stands up right away, clenching his fist, his hero spirit kicking in. As he stands up, something inside him begins to stir. His gut filling with rage would make the first signs of cursed energy for Deku. He clenches his fist harder than he'd ever clenched it. Cursed energy coats it. He had finally unlocked his power. From the sides, he starts to walk towards Bakugo, hands clenched. The people in the playground stop and stare, watching Deku approach. They all start to circle around him, feeling the tension start to build up and feeling an almost sinister energy coming off of Deku. Deku finally makes it there, getting his courage up before speaking. Stop picking on that kid, Bakugo. What did he even do? He gets in close, pushing Bakugo over, his attack slightly harder than usual. Bakugo straight away looks up at Deku. What did you say to me, nerd? He stands up, explosions cackling in his palms. You know what? I'm gonna beat on you for that, Deku. It's about time I finally showed you your place anyway. Deku breathes heavy, his emotions finally getting the better of him. His curse energy sparks as off of instinct, Deku makes a hand sign. Almost muscle memory to him. The sun beaming down on him would cast a shadow, which begins to darken and twist. Unbeknownst to Bakugo, who was only looking at Deku. In his mind, he was just pulling a silly pose or something. Seeing this, he right away lunges in at Deku. The onlooker's eyes bulging as they see two little dogs, one black and one white, coming from the floor out of Deku's shadow, my bad. What the? Deku! Without even saying anything, the two dogs jump up and grab onto each of Bakugo's arms. He begins to bleed, looking down to see them. Looking up again before finally getting blasted by a punch to the chin. Bakugo gets spun and falls to the floor, spitting a tooth out along with some blood. What the hell was that? By the time he looks back, they had both disappeared. Deku on the floor, panting from overexertion. The teachers rush out as Bakugo stands up once more, stopping the fight before it got restarted. They see a completely fine Deku on the floor with a bloody and bruised Bakugo standing. They were of course confused by this, getting everyone's story as the two were up at the sickbay. In the end, they decide to blame Deku, knowing that Bakugo was a star in the making with his quirk and that Deku just had some dogs from what they could see. Deku getting expelled right after this. Inko hears the news, coming to pick Deku up. At first, she's furious before before asking what actually happened. Deku explains the bullying he went through, the beatings he's taken, how he saw a kid getting picked on and how it made him more angry than he's ever been. He looks down at his hands, looking at his green cursed energy flowing only faintly. Good news is, I unlocked my quirk. I'll show you when I get home, but you're gonna love it. They drive a little bit, Deku going into detail on everything, Inko eventually getting the whole situation under wraps. In the end, he gets put into another school, Inko dropping ties with Bakugo's mum along with anything to do with Bakugo. When they get home, Deku shows off his quirk, summoning the two dogs again, the divine dogs, watching as they spew from his shadow, forming into life before her eyes. They immediately act friendly around her, instantly knowing she was a friend. Inko and Deku right away growing close to them, keeping them as kind of pets. For the next year or so, Deku would train with the dogs, finding out they were a lot smarter than they let on, knowing commands right away before even getting trained them, and even fighting for Deku off of nothing but intentions. Deku, as the days would go on, would keep them active more and more, until about a year or so later he could keep them up almost all day, which, unbeknownst to him, would actually be training him. In the new school he goes to, he shows off his quirk freely, not getting any bad looks and even getting some support to be a hero. The class backing him because his dogs look super cool in their eyes. At around this time he also tries to get his quirk checked, but they were just as confused as he was. Deku didn't have the toe joint and yet he still had a quirk. Dr. Ujiko is confused by this but shrugs it off as some late bloomer thing or something. He finally finishes assessing Deku's quirk as divine dogs. Another year or so would go by and Deku would begin training with his dogs, going for runs, starting to learn things like parkour. He sees his cursed energy flowing more and more as time went on. Around this time, Deku would also get his second summon, Nue. It pops into his head one morning out of the blue. How to summon it, the hand signs, the incantation, its power, everything. Deku thinks this is strange, going for a walk after school. He figured he would give it a shot. I mean, his quirk was divine dogs, but maybe it just worked different. He walked into a forest, settling his bag down and summoning his dogs. They disappear from home, reappearing from his faint shadow in front of him. He closes his eyes, cursed energy spiking to the max off of instinct as he does the hand sign. He begins mumbling on his breath, spinning and chanting, before he takes one final breath in. He looks at both of his dogs with a nod. They sat and growled at him before he starts. He stomps a foot down. Nue! To his horror, something does happen. He opens his eyes, seeing his shadow bulging out from below him. He watches as something comes out of it, slowly creeping out before screeching. He feels the cursed energy leaving him as the shadow twisted. He jumps back, watching the thing come out. Right away his dogs begin to bark, knowing something was up and knowing it was bad news. Nue screeches and screams, lightning beginning to pour out from its wings as it flapped away. Deku, with an almost primal intrinsic need to tame it, starts running after it. His dogs outrunning him, one to the right and one to the left. The one on the right runs up a fallen tree, jumping off of it and grabbing Nue from its wings. He gets shocked a little bit, but Nue begins falling. The other from the floor waits before jumping up too. Each of them bite a wing, making it begin to fall. From the air it starts shocking both the dogs, but it was too late. Deku would see it falling, readying a punch and coating his fist in cursed energy. He clocks it back before throwing it at perfect timing. He rocks the thing right in the face, sending it flying towards a tree. His dogs, hurt but not destroyed, get back up, going right back into it. From this, a long fight follows. From there, Deku and the dogs use hit and run tactics. They run in and jump it before it gets pissed, turning and running away again. After a solid 5 minutes of this, Deku eventually gets it to a point where it submits. He holds his hand out, taming it there and then. He comes back home with scratches all over him, the dogs bleeding and battered, desummoning them as he walks in. Walking inside and sitting at the dinner table, Inko asking what happened, asking if it was Bakugo again. Without thinking, she rushes off to go get the first aid kit before Deku stops her, grabbing onto her wrist. Deku smirks. It's fine, mama. I want the cuts. In other news, I did find something out about my quirk though. There's more than just the dogs. Today in the forest I tamed another one. A weird bird thing. I think I'm gonna call it Nui. Inko hears this, thinking he's on something. Thinking he ate a random weird mushroom or something. Tamed one? Sweetie, what were you doing in the forest? Please don't tell me you were trying to tame some rabbit animal or something. Deku keeps smiling. No, mama. Here, I'll show you. He grabs her and walks her outside, the backyard dark and cold, a faint street light the only light source of anything in the area. It shone on Deku's back, casting a faint shadow. Like before, he makes a hand sign, Inko watching on as he stamps his foot down. She feels an aura, the air changing directions before she stops and looks around him. The light flickers a little bit, his shadow flicking until she sees something. Like the dogs, something else comes out of his shadow. She stops and stares as Nue emerges. As soon as she sees it, she faints. Imagine if your son did some creepy stuff like that. In the pitch dark, by the way, and then Nue of all things comes out the floor looking at you. Have you seen Nue? That thing is creepy. Deku taps her on the face and stuff, and after a minute she wakes up, seeing Deku and the dogs and Nue staring back at her. She looks around before getting back to her senses, still scared straight of Nue. Deku tells her it's fine, getting Nue to look a little bit less scary, you know? And after about a minute or two, she finally gets comfy, knowing Deku was in control of it completely. That night, Deku shows her what it can do, getting Nue to hover before striking the ground with an electric shock. Inko's shocked by this, the light turning off completely. People in the neighborhood starting to complain that the power just went off. They hurry back inside before it finally gets turned back on. Inko from that moment seeing the usefulness and strangeness of Deku's weird quirk. Deku's 8 at this point, and he's got 2 dogs plus a bird that can summon lightning. Like, what? She knows Deku's got to be some type of special. Deku meets her eyes, seeing the shock at his power. He smiles. I'll show you one day. I'll be the greatest hero in the world with this quirk. If I can tame 2 things, maybe there's more. I'm gonna collect them all and become #1 hero, solidifying his will and solidifying his place as the #1 hero in the future. From age 8 to around 10, Deku would once again training with the 2 summons. Both of the summons getting to about the size of megumis in this time, training the entire time in the same forest he fought Nue in. He goes nuts. Because it's so far out, Deku can use his quirk freely. He practices Nue and Divine Dog's combo attacks, finding out they can break trees easily, practicing precision with Nue and even learning to ride on it. Through this time, he would also learn to start fighting up close, starting to adopt more of a Megumi approach to summoning and fighting at the same time. The night of Deku's 10th birthday, Deku would fall asleep, getting another dump of information popping into his head, this time in a dream. In this dream, he's surrounded by sand, running through the desert like in solo leveling when you fail the daily quest. He runs for 5 minutes straight before stopping for a break right as below him a huge snake jumps out. It dwarfs Deku, catching him and beginning to constrict him. Deku in the dream tries to fight back, summoning both of his shadows, Nue raining down lightning as the dogs gnaw at its skin, but it's not enough. The dogs couldn't penetrate at paws, and Nue couldn't go full on because he was in the crossfire. Due to this, he suffocates, blinking to black before waking up. Deku wakes up in a cold sweat, the info flooding into his head on how to summon it, its name, etc. He stays up the rest of that night, scared straight of the snake. He knows he has to take this dream serious, knowing that if anything, it might have just saved his life. He from there trains twice as hard, starting to go on more dangerous missions, sending himself deeper into the forest to fight quirked animals. He uses Nue and the dogs in tandem to build their friendship too, doing this around a month before deciding the time was right. A 10-year-old Deku summons both of his shadows, Nue having grown a little bit since when he found him, and Demon Dogs now giving off a sinister aura as Deku begins to get ready. Nue floats up, floating around him as Demon Dogs lower their stance, ready to pounce. He makes the hand sign and stomps his foot down one last time. Arise, great serpent! Orochi! This time his shadow doesn't change. It gets darker, but it stays the same shape. Deku's confused by this, looking over and thinking it didn't work. He felt the energy change, but nothing happened. He looks over to Nue and Demon Dogs, who were on guard ready to pounce even still. Deku knew something was up. As he was going to look away, Demon Dogs begin howling. A distress call he taught them for if he was about to get snuck. Right away, Deku jumps backwards, backflipping as a serpent explodes from the floor like in his dreams. Deku looks up. It was the exact same as in his dream. He begins running back, jumping onto Nue and flying alongside a stretched out snake. As he flies, he spams lightning, the serpent thrashing and crashing around. It barely missed Demon Dogs who were on its tail, keeping it connected to the ground and unable to stretch higher. As Deku flies above it, raining down lightning all over the battlefield. Some people in the distance worried about what the ruckus was, animals scurrying away, the ground shaking below them. The snake started frying, weakening it a little, enough for the Demon Dogs to come in clutch, finally able to bite down on it properly. With this, it is cooked. They jump the poor thing. Once again, after a long fight, the serpent is brought down, and Deku claims its shadow too. He comes home, serpent in the bag, knowing he was getting stronger by the day. He decides this time not to show his mum, knowing she would probably freak out 10 times as hard. He saw the reaction the bird got, so a giant snake probably isn't the best idea. He keeps it hidden, but tells her what his power is. He explains how he has 3 of them now, sitting down and eating dinner with Inko and the 2 dogs. Inko in her head starts wondering what was up with his power, how it took 6 to unlock, how he's supposed to be quirkless. Why does Quirk work like this? He was special for even quirked people, like his power didn't fit any category. She shrugs it off, sitting and watching a movie with him before she's put to sleep. From there on is straight school, Deku going from 10 to 14, finding a nice group of friends. He shows his dogs off, keeping Nue and that snake hidden, the class still backing him of his dreams of going to UA. Unlike his normal school, they don't drag him down for any of this, so he also doesn't have any confidence issues in this. Deku passes all of his tests with flying colours, finals being over with the final day of school rolling around as the teachers come in. Unlike his old school with Bakugo, this teacher doesn't tell all their business, handing out their forms to everyone bar Deku. Everyone else fills in their career aptitude form before the bell goes off. Deku being held back, the teacher wanting to talk to him in private. He knows his dream, like Deku wasn't really quiet with it. And, knowing his quirk was semi-decent, he decides to wish him good luck, giving him some motivation and even asking for his signature. Deku gives it to him, the teacher low-key struck, like he just got Deku's first ever official signature of the #1 hero, like he's looking at cash for that. Anyways, Deku after having this talk would decide to go into the forest again to train even though it was his rest day. He walks out the classroom, people giving him high fives and wishing him good luck as he walks out the school for the last time. He walks down the street before passing his old school, just missing Bakugo as he came out being a douche, like you would think. He walks down the same path as he does in canon, walking under the bridge. Now, I think you know what happens next. The sludge villain appears. He forms himself in the tunnel. Deku having headphones in and being ignorant doesn't help, completely unaware as he gets captured. The villain smirks. "Give me your body, kid." Deku having been caught by the tendril would think fast, doing the hand signs for the demon dogs, both of them appearing, starting to fight and bite the tendril. Eventually, they get the sludge off. The villain seeing this smirks. "Oh, so these are your quirk, huh? Well, since I won't be needing them, I might as well put them down." He shoots a tendril at one of them, hitting him and connecting it. It starts to choke the dog out. As Deku sees this, he locks in, making the hand signs for Nui as the other dog goes in and rushes to rip the sludge off the stuck dog. He tries and struggles, the villain adding more and more, trying to get the second dog too. Deku tries to unsummon both of the dogs, but only the one outside of the sludge does. As he does this, he summons Nue, sending it flying high. It comes in, readying their wings for an attack, ready to blow this thing to nothing, before All Might comes out the drain. He lands and clocks his fist back. "Texas! Smash!" He sends a fist forward, sending air pressure that ends up getting the sludge completely off the dog and sending it flying backwards. Deku, having watched the #1 hero just land a punch, would be shocked, staring at All Might. All Might looks all over the place, seeing him staring and getting kinda creeped out. "Hey, kid, you alright?" Deku completely ignores him, going over to his demon dog. He stares it over, feeling for a heartbeat, but it was gone. All Might walks over slowly as Deku starts to sob, watching as it falls into the shadows in front of him. Gone for good. He sobs louder, desummoning the other one and Nui. All Might watching him cry tries to cheer him up, asking what happened. Deku between tears explains his quirk to him as All Might collects the villain, ranting and getting some of the feelings off of his chest. All Might hearing this would give Deku some wise words of encouragement, telling him he could be a hero and that even though it's gone, it's still part of his quirk or something like that, I don't know, He then jumps off, leaving Deku all alone but safe. Deku stops crying, hearing All Might's words. They bring his spirits up, though he still doesn't know how he's going to explain it to Inko. He starts to walk home, thinking of All Might's words. It's still a part of my quirk. He stares at his hands, ideas start going through his head before he starts hearing explosions off in the distance. It completely snaps him out of thought. He'd noticed he'd made his way there off of instinct. Figuring he was there already, he decides to walk in more, going towards the explosions before eventually seeing the scene. He stands at the back of the crowd, unable to see anything. Wanting a better view, he goes to a back alley. He summons Nue and discreetly flies towards a nearby building roof. From there, he watches on, scanning the area below him. He saw fires everywhere, about 8 pros all backed into a corner, and before he can even finish his thoughts, he notices who the villain was. Instantly, he gets pissed. Having just lost one of his dogs to this freak, he decides to get his get back. He stands up, jumping off the building and falling down before Nui catches him. He flies down, people noticing and pointing up. Deku doesn't care though. He starts dive bombing the thing. Electricity coursing throughout the bird's wings and entire body until he hears something. Someone trapped inside. A voice that he felt like he knew. In about half a second, it clicks. Instantly, he gets Nui to pull up, stopping the attack. Deku jumps off and faces the villain one-on-one, standing before the pros who scream at him to get out the way, and that he's gonna get killed. Deku doesn't listen though, his legs shake a little bit but they move nonetheless. All Might watching from the crowd would be shocked, seeing the scene unfolding. Was this kid in it for revenge? No, he stopped that attack before it could hit before. It couldn't be. Was he? Deku staring at the person inside the villain would then get a glimpse of their eyes. He sees the eyes of someone that he used to know, someone that he hated, but someone whose life was in need of saving. Right away he summoned Nue, making the hand signs before jumping on his back. He summons demon dogs, this time just one, but unlike before, he feels the other one, just not in physical form. All Might's words flashed through his mind. Still a part of my quirk. He channels the spirit of the second dog into the first, eventually getting demon dogs, totality, which, by the way, is cracked by itself. With this, he flies in. The heroes and onlookers going crazy. Some civilians start talking, murmuring, "What was this kid's quirk? I've never seen anything like it." Deku doesn't listen though. Totality runs in, blitzing the sludge villain and grabbing Bakugo's arm. He pulls it out as Deku flies over from above. "Alright, Nue. Send this thing to hell and get revenge for our family. Max output." Nue charges, its wings glowing a faint blue before sparking with electricity. It concentrates right into the area below him, compressing before firing off a huge thunderbolt. This attack completely splatters the sludge villain, splitting it right down the middle, split and painted against the wall. No one moves or talks. All Might mid-transformation stops himself. The rain, like in canon, would come. People in the crowd speak. The kid just changed the weather. He looks around at the onlookers. No one moved or spoke. The pros in the front line get a reality check on their status and how they need to lock in before they get put out of the job by this 14-year-old kid. Everyone sits in silence. Bakugo completely knocked out and unaware of his savior. Deku makes the most out of this, getting on Nue and rushing off to the clouds. Deku in the end goes home, All Might not being able to catch up to him or even being able to track him because, he's above the clouds, So in the end, he doesn't tell him about One for All, deciding to keep it until UA just in case he sees him again. He walks through the door with a smile on his face, knowing he was one up on Bakugo before seeing Inko. Right away his face drops. He hangs his head a little as Inko asks what's up. Like you would expect, he explains, telling her about the villain and how one of the demon dogs is gone, but it was still there in spirit. He felt its power and personality pass onto the other dog, but it also changed its look. Inko's sad before asking what the first one looked like now. Deku summons Totality, which knocks her out like you would expect. Come on, have you seen Totality too? It's like a whole ass werewolf, bro. From there, time would go on. Deku, knowing about the 10 months, would train and lock in, going back to the forest and training more and more. During this, he would train like combo attacks and stuff like that, until eventually at the 2-month mark, he figures something out. After being sick of constantly carrying around his gear to and from the forest, Deku would look up some storage ideas, finding ads and stuff like that until a video pops up. A video of a guy with a storage quirk. In this video, the guy puts a portal into a little pocket dimension onto a wall, putting his hand inside and grabbing stuff out. Deku, seeing this, gets an idea. The forest blocking all the sun would barely light his shadow. He looks down at the floor, smirking and activating his technique, but just the shadow, no summoning or anything. He does this, kneeling down before touching the floor below him. As he makes contact, the floor breaks into a liquid, Deku slipping and falling in, having lost his footing. Through this, he finds the second part of his quirk, Endless Abyss, a move which allows him to move freely throughout his shadows and the shadows of others, allowing him to hide in them completely. This also allows him to store stuff, but whatever he has in his shadows, he will bear the weight of. So let's say he had a car in his shadows, he wouldn't be able to move because he's deadlifting a whole car whenever he walked, I'd say he could probably deadlift like a fridge or two. Like Deku pre-training could do that, so you know what, maybe a car isn't too far of a fetch, low-key. Anyways, knowing that, Deku would begin training with it, finding it pretty hard at first but then getting a hang of it. He practices with a hella weight on him in his shadows at all times to help build himself up more, using it kind of like Dragon Ball's gravity training, He practices surprise attacks with his summons by jumping out of the shadows and trees and stuff, learning to attack from blind spots. After another 2 months after that, so about 4 months in, he unlocks 2 more transformations, or summons I mean. The final 2 I'll be giving him before the UA entrance exam. The visions came to him this time as he was training, though unlike the others, it was tamed instantly. No ritual and no fighting, which, if you hadn't guessed, were Rabbit Escape and Toad. I genuinely don't see him fighting those, like they're pretty weak, and the power he has would smoke them, let's be real. Especially Rabbit Escape, like what? Anyways, he was now 8 or so months into the 10 months training. Deku having a huge bag of tricks. He can slice with Totality, electrify and fly with Nue, poison and paralyze with Orochi, make a massive summons to distract or flee with a rapid escape, and do quick escapes and set up attacks with Toad. He can also store things in the abyss and can walk in people's shadows completely undetectable. That's just half of his powers, mind you. From then, he would train with his physical stats instead, practicing his fighting style, fighting as Shikigami for training, holding more and more weight on himself. This goes on for the final 2 months until finally the UA entrance exam rolls around. The day of the entrance exam rolls around and Deku wakes up feeling confident. As he ate breakfast, his curse energy flickered on and off. Deku already ready for combat. He's dropped off to the gates of UA, hugging his mum and waving her goodbye before walking through the gates of UA. Doing this is taking his first steps to becoming a real hero. He walks through the gate, looking around him, this time not tripping because he's not clumsy, you know. Instead, he walks inside, sitting the theory test and passing with flying colours, making his way to the prac exam lecture and sitting down. He sat in the middle of the auditorium, staring around. There were so many people here. He looked around at all of them, how they were dressed, how their quirks were. Whoa, this place is a real deal, huh? Damn, that guy's a cool looking quirk. He looks at Tokiyami, who looks back at him, doing like a nice little head nod, you know. He keeps staring, listening in the lecture, until, like you would expect, Ida stands up. I don't know if it's your inability as a teacher or the school's issue, but you only listed 3 robots. On the brochure here it clearly says 4. Along with this, you! He turns around, pointing at Deku in the crowd, who is still looking around, completely clueless. He finally clocks it, seeing everyone looking at him. He looks around before seeing Ida. Huh? What did I do? Did I fail or something? Some people in the crowd start giggling as Ida speaks up again. No, but you might cause others to fail if you don't stop your yapping. I don't know if you know this, but this is a prestigious school. Some people are trying to listen. Bakugo, looking at Deku, finally clocks who it is. Deku? Deku stares back at Ida, standing up. What? That's what it's about? I wasn't even talking out loud. You must have some hearing quirk or something. He starts to laugh. Makes sense with those big ass ears on your face. Ida's like, well, I never. Presmite giggles a little bit before telling the two of them to sit down, explaining the final robot, the 0-pointer. Ida starts jotting stuff down in his notebook like a nerd, and Deku goes back to scanning the room again until the lecture ended. From there they would walk out. Bakugo tries to find Deku, but he was long gone. Wanting to get a good look, Deku sprinted. He gets there first, looking and seeing Presmite already sitting there. Wow, you got here quick. I thought you had a voice quirk. Presmite smiles. I do. I'm just that good. Deku smirks. So, can I go now? Presmite shakes his head no, though if it was up to him he would say yes. From there the two of them start chatting, Presmite low-key getting a liking to Deku off bat. He was chill and he shut down that nerd in the presentation for him. As a minute or so goes by, the rest of the kids arrive. In this timeline, Deku doesn't get hassled by Ida because he's already at the front. Once again he stands, staring around, seeing everyone staring back at him. He keeps looking around until he hears something. Looking back and seeing the gates were starting to swing open. A smirk grows on his face, looking at Presmite and giving him the old respect nod. You know what I mean. Before immediately jumping the fence, not even going through the gate. Mid-air he summons Nue, falling under him as they fly off. The teachers in the room watch on. Wow, he's quick to act. And what great physical strength. All Might in the back of the room looks intently. It's that kid from 10 months ago. Nezu stares back at him. Oh, you know this boy? I've taken quite the interest into him myself. His quirk is one I just must study. As he says this, Deku forms another hand sign. Now, Totality! Strike the ones on the right down. Totality arises from his shadows, jumping out and rushing full speed down a passageway to the right. Deku continues forward, scanning the entire area to find the most populated areas. Doing this, he sees another huge group. Deku decides to dive down, getting Nue to flap its wings as Deku pours more and more cursed energy in. As he does this, Nue begins growing and growing until it hits the size of a building. The teachers and All Might look in horror. What was that thing? The large shadow casted down from Deku's summon, completely taking over the students and Presmite. Let's go, you know what to do. Nue lets out a screech before closing and opening its wings. A huge thundercloud spawns in below it. The teacher's watching on as in a second, lightning is shot from every centimeter of it. About 100 lightning bolts striking every robot in the entirety of the left section of the exam. Even students in other exam sites stop and stare. Seeing the huge hulking figure and hearing the massive thunderous clap of the attack Deku just let off. After seeing this attack off, he gets a little bit dizzy, having used a lot of cursed energy, though he still smiles, knowing he's already done well. He watches on as finally the rest of the students begin pouring out, watching as Deku floats menacingly above them. He stands up on Nue before bowing, looking around at everyone with a smug look on his face, as he eventually flies off, desummoning Nue and Totality, who had destroyed every robot in the right section as well. The teachers are horrified, Nezu even shocked. He thought his quirk was powerful, but this? Nezu comes over the intercoms. As you can probably tell, there is no robots left in this exam site. Due to this, the rest of you will have to take your exam elsewhere. Follow President Mike as he directs you to the next exam site. Oh, and Azuka Midoriya, could you stay behind please? He smirks and sits completely still. All of the teachers walk down to his exam site. Every single one of them walking over to Deku and asking what the hell that was. He tries to explain before Nezu tells him to stop, telling him to come with him instead. Deku shrugs, deciding to do so, being taken to Nezu's office alone and being sat down. Now, I'll cut to the chase. I see a potential in you that could rival All Might himself. Your quirk is astounding, and if you're willing to tell me every detail about it, I'll accept you into UA right here and right now. Deku's shocked by how forward the little mouse was, sitting back in his chair before smirking. Well, I'm gonna be number one anyways, but hearing it from you is an honor. Sure, I'll explain it. You got a deal. They lean over and shake hands, Deku right away getting to explaining. He explains every Shikigami, how he started with 2 divine dogs, how one died and how its essence lived on into totality. He explains Nue and Orochi, Rabbit Escape and the Toads. Nezu once again shocked at how much its quirk offered. Like, Deku didn't even use half of his Shikigami in the battle. Nezu stops him multiple times to question him on aspects, some Deku hadn't even thought of yet. Together, they brainstorm a little bit before Nezu decides to invite him into UA early to get him extra training, having seen his potential himself. Deku hearing this is, of course, super hype. He goes home and tells his mum. They celebrate a little bit before Deku gets a huge feed, conking out right afterwards, ready for the day coming. He wakes up kinda groggy, getting ready and driving to UA. Enko drops him off once again and he walks through the gates, this time admitted. He walks through the hallways, getting some weird looks from some students. He walked in without a uniform on, was wearing nothing but thongs like. Seeing him, whispers begin filling the halls. Wait a second, that's the kid that beat all the robots yesterday, isn't it? Someone else starts talking to the side of him. Didn't you see him? He was in the sludge villain too. People start gassing Deku up. He hears this, getting a smirk on his face, walking to Nezu's office completely confident. He opens the door to see Nezu and a debuffed All Might. Deku scans the place. Hey, wasn't expecting a visitor. How are you both? All of them sit down and have a little chat. Deku sitting next to All Might, until right away Nezu cuts to the chase. He stands up and looks Deku right in the eye. I'm gonna cut to the chase, Deku. Ever since the sludge villain incident, this man right here has been looking for you. Deku looks to his left, staring at the skinny man. Huh? This guy? He looks back at Nezu. Wait, the sludge villain? How do you even know that was me? I was trying to be sneaky too, damn. All Might gets a laugh in before finally buffing up. Because I saw it with my own 2 eyes, young man. That day filled me with hope, and that hope brings me here. Young man, I wish for you to be the inheritor of my powers. With my quirk and your strange ability, you could be an unstoppable force, a hero above heroes, a god. He looked at his hands, cursed energy flowing around them. It distorted and sparked, reacting to his emotions. He looks back up at All Might. What will it do? That seems like a lot of power for one person to have, don't you think? Nezu looks at Deku. I think if anyone could do it, it was you, Deku. You had my word backing you before I even knew All Might was searching for you. Deku then looks back up at him. Well, if number one and the principal think I can do it, then what the hell? I'll take it and be the strongest hero imaginable. All Might cracks a smile. Eat this. He holds his hand out holding a long ass hair. Like rewatching that scene, that's gotta be his longest hair. Look at that. Deku just munched it right up as well. Ooh. Deku stares at it. There's no way. That's beyond nasty. All Might starts explaining the whole DNA thing before finally Deku takes the bite. Now, he's got about 2 weeks before UA starts officially. So, just to rewrap, Deku now has Divine Dog Totality, Nue, Rabbit Escape, Toad, and Great Serpent. Endless Abyss, he can walk in people's shadows, and he has One for All, which I'm going to make a little bit special for Deku. Deku will just sit and chat with them for about an hour or two, sitting there until the hair digested. They sit and chat about One For All, about his power. He explains everything to All Might, yada yada, until finally he feels something. He feels One For All entering his system. His eyesight clears. He looks down at his hands and arms. They flowed with cursed energy. His entire body was coated. He'd never seen this much. This was nuts. He stares at Nezu and All Might, cracking a smile before asking to go outside. They nod, following him to the oval, Deku insisting they should go there to avoid damages. He sits in the middle, watching his shadow from below him, making the hand sign for Nue. The other two watch as Deku's shadow twists, spiking up from the floor before flooding out over the entire oval. Now, saw. They're horrified as Nue begins coming from the floor. It's electricity making their hairs spike on edge by even being around it. They watch as it begins flapping its wings. It was huge, the size of a 0-pointer. All Might cracks a little grin, Loki a little bit scared. Well, damn kid, didn't know it would work quite like this. How you feeling? Fatigued? Deku looks back at his hands. He didn't even feel the tiniest bit tired. His cursed energy output skyrocketed due to One For All. By the way, his power still is a cursed technique. I don't usually like bringing other power systems into it, but they're just so similar, and you know, cursed techniques are pretty cool, so it won't change a single thing, I promise, and I'm not going to mention it other than like just now. Anyways, he desummons Nue, Nezu and All Might coming in close, discussing their findings and going through the rest, which I'ma save for now. They decide to call it a day, Nezu telling him he's free to come into UA at any time to train as he pleases. But school doesn't start for another 2 weeks. Deku in this time chills, sleeping the next day until it was like 11 AM. He didn't have a care in the world. He woke up and went downstairs to have breakfast already in the fridge for him. He heats it up and, you know, pigs out a little bit before deciding to do a little bit of shopping. Now, I don't usually do these little side quests, but you know, it's a 1K special, may as well. He chucks on a clean fit, making sure he had some shit on, just in case, you know. He walks out the door, walking in a random direction before eventually making it to the same street as the sludge villain incident. Deku, feeling a little bit adventurous, decides to go on a mission, going down the back streets for a little bit of fun. This is until he would feel something was up. He walked closer and closer to a nearby alleyway, feeling a bloodlust emanating from it like he'd never felt. He peeks his head around the corner, his curiosity getting the better of him, being horrified at what he sees. The first thing he sees is a villain holding a huge katana, posed up and ready to murk some random top 200 hero. I don't know, this is just like, I don't know, think of some random hero. The person with the katana, of course, being Stain. This is before all the fame though, so he's kind of starting out at this point. Deku seeing this, of course, has to act. You know, like, he's still Deku, so right away he makes himself known. He jumps from the side to the front of the alleyway and makes the hand side for Toad. 4 frogs spawning in all around the hallway, which Stain doesn't see at all. All Stain sees is Deku's shadow contorting before stretching out and covering the entire alleyway. Kid, what the hell? Who even are you? Either you stay out of this or you're next. He tries to go for the guy once again, but he's gone. As Stain's facing the other way, Deku switches his hand signs to the rabbits. Gassed he could finally use them in combat. He figured because the space was so tight he could run a combo attack he'd been thinking of for a while now. Instantly, they pour out of his shadow that was sprawled out all over the floor. Stain's shocked. What? I thought this guy had a darkness quirk or something. He tries to jump back, getting as far away from the rabbits as possible, but it's too late. Instantly, he's surrounded by rabbits in about half a second, his entire body and point of view being covered in white. He tries to fight it, but it's no use. He can't even move his arms. All the rabbits cramping him and holding him in the same spot. What the hell is even happening? As this is in motion, Deku pinpoints his exact location, smirking and summoning Totality. He stares down the hallway before looking at Totality and the frogs. Now, let's get in, boys! As he screams this, he desummons his rabbits. Stain's point of view shifting from bright light to liquid shadow. The pressure all around him gone. He tries to capitalize by grabbing a sword on each of his side, but to his surprise, it was gone. In about half a second after despawning the rabbits, all 4 of Deku's toads went in and grabbed Stain's weapons, making him completely weaponless as Totality moved in. Stain can't even react before he's grabbed from behind. Pause! Deku begins to walk him down, his shadow retrieving back into his body as he inched closer. Stain starts tweaking. Oh, just a kid! Who even are you? As much as he hated to admit it, Deku was treating it like a real hero. He didn't showboat. He analysed the situation, formed a plan in a split second, saved the pro and even captured him without violence. He couldn't even complain, but he also wouldn't give up. He started squirming, Totality holding him harder and harder until Deku once again stopped. Give it a rest. He makes a hand sign for Orochi, summoning him and biting Stain in the leg. Right away, he's paralyzed completely. Kinda ironic if you think about it, you know. Deku gets closer and closer, pulling his phone out of his pocket. All Might, can you come to me really quick? I got a little something you might want to see here. About 2 minutes later, All Might arrives in his hero costume, having already been doing hero work in the area, you know. He sees the scene, Deku with totality on his side, holding a paralyzed villain who is still screaming. The man only stops once he sees All Might. His head rushes through his entire life, how much he's idolized All Might. He starts manically laughing and staring at All Might. Only you are worthy. I've done this all for you, can't you see it? All Might looks down the alleyway, seeing the pro hero in the back with cuts all over them, bleeding out. Did all of this, huh? And what exactly was that? Stain looked at All Might, in his mind thinking he genuinely cared. He decides to answer. He tells them both about his life mission. Fake heroes parading around in suits. Deku hearing this, Loki can see where he's coming from until he tells him how many he's killed. As he says this, All Might clocks it. He remembers back to a convo he had with the police commissioner. This guy was him. Right away he clocks his arm back, throwing a punch and knocking him clean out before he can even see it coming. Deku's confused like, what happened? He ties him up and calls the cops, telling Deku about who he is and who he just defeated. How, though he did it right this time, this could have ended a whole lot worse and he shouldn't ever do that again. Like you would think, Deku gets a slap on the wrist, All Might pulling some strings behind the scenes, you know, to keep his record clean. They do still thank him though, keeping the incident on the low. Now, due to this, the story later on is gonna change. Keep an eye out for that. Either way, I'm gonna stop yapping about all that NPC stuff and finally get into UA. He gets to UA about the 1 week mark, going and kind of just walking around the place. He meets some teachers, talking with Aizawa and Present Mike again, so he gets on their good side right off bat. He walks around, eventually finding himself a good open gym to train in, finding cool gadgets and hero items littered around the place. He spends the entire day just sitting there and watching classes come in and out of the gym. People in the hero course showing off their quirks as they trained. He sees the big three doing this. Aizawa, who was teaching them at this point, would come over to him and start talking. So, was that you in the incident the other day? Be honest with me, kid. Deku has a drop of sweat going down his face. He rubs the back of his neck. Guilty. Aizawa looks at him dead serious. I don't know what you were thinking, but your head's gotten way too big. Don't let Nezu's offer cloud your judgment. I know you can do this. Deku hearing this kinda hangs his head a little bit. He was right. Nezu letting him in early had gotten to his head. He looks down at the floor, thanking Aizawa before walking off. He walked into the same forest he used to train at. It felt like it had been ages since he'd last been there. He lays on the grass, staring up into the sky, sitting and just thinking to himself for a while. He gets home later that night, opening the door to see a passed out Inko on the couch with the TV blaring. He laughed a little bit, taking a photo before walking upstairs, going to his room and going to bed. I'm just gonna say that he had UA the next day, because I completely forgot how long I put it, but anyway. Deku wakes up the very next day, looking left and right, his eyes slowly adjusting to the light coming into his room. He blinked in and out before looking over to his alarm clock. He'd woken up a lot earlier than he thought, so he decided to go for a run before UA started. It was about 5 AM. Deku gets on his joggers and walks back outside. Seeing his mum still sleeping on the couch, he smirks, going out the door really quiet, running off, once again going to the same spot that he went to a week prior, so where he fought Stain. He makes his way into town and through the streets, seeing the alleyway where it all went down. He gets flashes of the fight going through his memory, shaking himself out of it. Aizawa's words echoing through his head. He once again starts running, walking past a couple incidents before making his way home at about 7. He wakes his mama up and makes her breakfast before sitting and chatting a little bit just before leaving. Loki leaving a little bit late too, so they drive really quickly and he walks through the gates for a second time, though today just had a new vibe to it. He walked through the hallways, waving hello to some teachers on the way to class. A couple third years, you know, until he finally makes his way to the big door of Class 1A. He stares at the door, taking a huge breath in before opening it. As he walked inside, he saw a completely silent class with a familiar teacher standing at the front. All the students stopped and stared at him, some of them having their mouths agape. If you see in Jujutsu Kaisen the movie, you know when Yuta walks through the door for the first time? And when he takes that step and the cursed energy's going everywhere? That's what he looks like. They all remember back to the entrance exam. Kaminari turns to Mineta. Damn, that kid's got aura. Let's go hang around with him. Maybe the ladies will like us by association. The two of them start giggling, mumbles going throughout the entire classroom, all directed at Deku, before Aizawa talks over all of them. Finally decide to bless us with your presence, Midoriya. Deku's face goes white. I'm sorry sir, it won't happen again, I promise. Bakugo in the back stares him down, mumbling to himself, getting more and more mad by the second. Midoriya? How the hell does he know the teachers already? And how did that nerd get into UA? Explosions start going off in his hands before he stands up and points at Deku. Who did you bribe to get into UA, Deku? That weak little dog Quirk is not... He's cut off by Aizawa, bitch slapping him across the face with his capture tape. Both of you, sit down before I expel you. This is not a good first impression from you, Bakugo. And this is not what I expected from you, Midoriya. Instantly they shuffle into their seats, the class still dead quiet as Aizawa explains the Quirk apprehension test. He tells everyone to hop up and get changed before meeting him outside. They would do so, Deku walking with the rest of the class to the changing rooms. Kirishima coming up from behind. Whoa man, how the hell did you know the teachers already? You some secret undercover probe we don't know about? Deku laughs a little bit at this, low-key wanting to say yes. Well, He scans the room, seeing Bakugo staring back at him. He cracks a smirk, staring right back, holding eye contact as he continues. I got accepted early by Nezu after the entrance exam. Bakugo, hearing this, was shocked. This nerd? They all chat a little bit, Deku keeping his quirk hidden a little bit because, yeah. Until they finally walk outside. Deku being thrown the ball as Aizawa explains everything. This test determines how I rank you in this class. In this world, strength is everything. The numbers won't lie on this test, so go all out. The class gets a grin, staring at Deku as he walks forward. Throw at Midoriya. Deku shrugs, cocking his arm back, throwing it normally. Curse energy strengthening him a little bit, which would get him a solid throw of about 120 meters. Aizawa having cancelled his quirk. He listens to the class as they're all surprised. Wow, this is going to be fun. He does the whole, fun? You think being a pro is fun? You know, that whole thing. Telling him that last place will get expelled before throwing another ball at Deku. Now, throw it with your quirk. Deku catches the ball, the class in shock. He didn't use his quirk? He holds the ball, staring at it. How could he even use his quirk for this? He thinks super hard before something comes into his head. Aizawa smirks watching him. The class watching on intently as Deku makes a hand sign. He summons a toad, buffing it with one for all to make it huge. Like the size of two humans standing on top of each other, you know. Everyone's shocked. They'd never seen any quirk like this. What even was that? Tokiyami's confused too. It was completely separate from him. As they're wondering this, Deku gives the ball to the toad, telling him to spit it at max speed before chucking it. He does so, getting easy 500 meters. Like, let's be real, it ain't really flying or anything. And he didn't want to show off one for all that much, so people are double shocked. Bakugo can't even speak. What? Where's the dogs? Aizawa stares at him, readying his quirk in case of attack. But nothing happens. Bakugo, seeing this, puts his head down, trying to ignore it as it eats away at him. The rest of the tests from there go a little bit like this. For the grip strength, Deku would use totality or one for all, either or, getting top score. For the sprint, Deku would use Nue, flying off bat and beating out Ida in this timeline. You know, Nue's pretty quick, plus it does one for all in it too, so... For the pit jump, well, you know, Deku can fly, so Aizawa puts infinity down for that. He then uses toads for the side to side, summoning one to the right and one to the left. Like Mineta, he bounces between the two, beating him out. I'm pretty sure that's all the tests. Deku, of course, gets first place, like people and even Bakugo finally understanding why he got let in early. The class surrounds him straight away, starting to spam ask him questions, asking what his quirk even is, what those things were, and why his shadow was moving like that. Deku sighs, about to explain it before Aizawa stops him, telling everyone to go to orientation and that they can talk about that later. Deku shrugs, walking off as Aizawa said, kinda glad he didn't have to explain things to them, it would just get too complicated. They sit through orientation before coming back to class. Because I don't want to wait and I want the fight to be before Deku explains his quirk, their next class would be Hero Training 101. They all sit down and chill, a huge crowd forming around Deku. So what do you want to know? He sighs. Uraraka in the back speaks up. What were those frog things? And that bird? And that werewolf thing? They gave me the creeps. People in the class start to nod, having felt the cursed energy emanating off of all of them. Deku's about to explain it again before another voice shuts it down. Yeah, I got a question. How the hell did you get so strong, Deku? Your quirk works by summoning those freak things, right? Then how are you so strong? You got multiple quirks or something? Damn nerd. Deku opens his mouth, trying to think of a comeback, but being unable to. Thank God he's cut off by All Might, who walks through the door like a normal person. Right away they drop it, going nuts. We got All Might as our teacher? What? There's no way. Even Deku's surprised. He knew All Might was teaching, but teaching his class is a whole nother story. All Might stands at the front in his Silver Age costume, smiling at the entire class. He explains what they're doing today, their heroes versus villains trial, reaching into his pocket before pulling out a button and explaining what's inside. Booyah! People grab their stuff and get changed. Deku rocks his Yuji uniform, it's clean, and Megumi's just ain't it. Like the JJK uniform, He walks out. People surprised that he went with something so boring. He liked it though. And so did All Might. From there they're selected and would be paired up for the upcoming trial. Deku's still being paired up with Uraraka and still versing Bakugo and Ida. Uraraka's excited for this. She knows Deku was strong and that she was probably gonna pass easy. The villains are let loose, going into the building and looking after the bomb as Deku and Uraraka chat at the front. Uraraka asks again what those creatures are, Deku finally explaining the hand signs and what each of them do. He also tells her about totality and a special signal it'll give off when it finds the bomb. This is until they're distracted by All Might finally letting him inside. Right away Deku makes the hand signs, summoning totality right from below him. Uraraka stares on as it comes out the floor. People in the room are horrified seeing this happen. Unlike him and Inko, they had not gotten used to it yet. They don't even chat. Totality knew exactly what it had to do. It would sprint right into the building. Deku and Uraraka walking casually through the building behind it. She looks at him and asks for a plan, which Deku shrugs for. He tells her that Totality will probably cover the lower floor, and that Deku can cover the second, so she should cover the third? She nods as they finally make it to the staircase. Going up to the third floor as Deku sits on the second. He stares down it, feeling something was about to come. Having a hunch that he was about to be fighting, he would start to ready himself. As he stands in the middle of the hallway, he sees something across from him. Someone. Right away, Bakugo smirks, as does Deku. Bakugo dropping from the third, as Deku sat still. Looking like some Yuji and Choso timing, As soon as they see each other, they go. Bakugo pushing off full power explosions, flying himself over to Deku who would still be walking. You're done, you cocky little shit. Where'd them dogs go, huh? Someone run them over or something? He gets closer and closer. Deku finally clocking what Bakugo just said. He remembers back to the sludge villain. The same villain he'd saved Bakugo from without him knowing. And the same thing that killed his dog. He instantly gets mad. All Might seeing this would start to worry. Right away he holds his arm out, watching as Bakugo reared closer and closer to him. Every explosion shaking the floor that they were on. He laughs watching as Deku did the same pose that they did when they were kids. This time though, with another hand sign. All Might comes over the intercom. No, Deku, don't! You're gonna kill— Deku doesn't listen. Yes, Deku, not Bakugo. Right away he summons Orochi. Orochi coming rocketing out of his shadow in about half a second. Flying at Bakugo who was about 3 meters away. And getting closer, mind you. He slams into him and swallows him whole. Orochi taking up the entire hallway space. The class is in shambles. Students passing out. Kirishima freaking out. Someone in the back starts doing a prayer. For all they know, Bakugo had just been killed in front of them. All Might seeing this goes white. No one moves a muscle as Deku keeps walking forward, watching as Orochi vomits him back up, trapping him between his two fangs, his head being the only thing out of Orochi. The class sighs a sigh of relief. All Might thankful his student didn't take it too far. Deku kneels down next to a traumatized and shell-shocked Bakugo. Well, you did fight well, I guess. Next time, don't make me mad with that dog getting run over shit. I'll have you know he died in duty against that sludge freak that I took out about 10 months ago. Bakugo hearing this, clicks. He did never know who properly saved him. People just said it was some kid. It all comes together as in the background, Totality begins howling. Deku stands up as Bakugo processes things. Knowing Bakugo might freak, he tells Orochi to knock him out. Orochi biting down on Bakugo too quick to see would leave him completely paralyzed. Well, I'll be off. Stay safe. He rushes off, leaving Bakugo unable to move on the second floor as he reared the third. As he walked up, he saw Totality and Uraraka sitting, chilling on the scene, looking in on a distracted Ida. He desummons Totality, Uraraka freaking out until she saw him. He gets close to the door, peeking his head around too, seeing Ida doing his whole villain thing. He thought it was funny as hell. Him and Uraraka start giggling, staring at it, eventually being found out. This time though, only Deku walks out, leaving Uraraka at the door, acting as a distraction. Ida does his usual thing, starting to sprint at Deku. Deku right away dodges. Surprised at how quick Ida was. He gets up on his toes, bouncing around like a little boxer. As Ida starts to run at him again. Instead of parrying, Deku makes another hand sign. Momo in the classroom is shocked. Wait, another one? I haven't seen that hand sign yet. The class is surprised too, watching as a new summon comes out, rabbits, flowing out of him in all directions, completely filling the room in an instant. Uraraka looks in, seeing nothing but white, until a nice little path begins to form in front of her. A single rabbit stops and stares at her, miming to follow, which she does. Ida, like Stain, was completely trapped, stuck in first gear and unable to move completely. Just like that, it was over. Bakugo and Ida, hearing as All Might comes over the intercom, "Hero team wins!" Deku desummons his rabbits right away. Ida, stuck midair, would fall onto the floor with a thud. Deku walks to go help him up, thanking him for the match and complimenting his quirk, just being nice. He then remembers about Bakugo. Walking downstairs and looking at him, he was completely still on the second floor. He giggled before holding his arm out, taking the venom out of Bakugo's bloodstream. This lets Bakugo move again. At first he's mad, and then he turns to Deku with a straight face. "Was it you? You saved me, didn't you? I had a hunch, but I could never prove it." Deku helps him up. I had to get my get back for one of the demon dogs. Sorry for when we were kids too. That bite was kinda my quirk's first activation. Bakugo rubs the back of his neck. "First activation, huh? Makes me kinda proud." They walk into the building, the class and Bakugo now having a new respect for Deku. Bakugo not tweaking near as much because, he respects him for saving him. Doing the whole Bakugo thing, yeah. The only person who was tweaking was Todoroki, who sat at the back of the class seething at the thought that someone was better than him. They get back and people start asking hella questions like you would think. Deku telling them to settle down before explaining his quirk to them. He explains his shadows, his summonings, and even shows them off. All Might allowing the class to go outside and watching as he summons all of them. The class gets a kinda good grasp over it. Deku keeping the hiding in shadows part hidden though. From there, they watch the rest of their battles. Everyone going normal except for Todoroki, who upped his ice in this timeline, completely freezing the building like a huge ice block instead of just doing the walls and stuff. He gets to win instantly, and Deku keeps an eye on him, knowing he was bad news. After that, they're all dismissed to lunch. Deku going to sit with Ida, Uraraka, and Bakugo in this timeline, chilling and just catching up a little bit. They get close over this time, fighting over the spot in number 1. Bakugo's like, "Oi, oi, I'm gonna be number 1, not you damn Deku, don't forget that." Deku rolls his eyes until the alarm goes off. Right away he locks in, knowing the alarm was bad news. Any alarm is. Right away he hops up, looking around the place. No fires, no fights. Right away a crowd of people starts forming in the hallways. Deku seeing this knows something bad probably happened. He runs over, looking out the front, seeing the reporters and the broken wall. So that's it, huh? He makes a hand sign, summoning a toad on the roof and pulling himself up. He clears his throat before screaming, "People!" Everyone stops, going silent, watching as Deku sits on the roof. He continues, "Lock in! It's the press. Plus we're UA students. We're the top 1%. If they're dumb enough to attack UA, it's their grave." People start nodding. "Oh yeah, false alarm." Someone looks outside, seeing the reporters. "Yeah, the kid's right." People walk off, kinda bummed, hoping there was a fight or something. Deku finally comes off the roof, going back and sitting with his little group. Them not even getting up in this timeline. They go back to class after lunch and Deku is voted clear class rep. People not even needing the secret system. Momo in this timeline getting the vice. Unlike the original Deku, he doesn't give it up. It looks good on a resume, so he keeps it. From there, it's nothing but normal school. Math, English, science. Deku after school would start sparring with Bakugo actually, inviting him into an empty gym at UA with Nezu's permission, getting there and just going crazy. They sit there and box for a little bit, going crazy until suddenly Deku feels a surge of info hitting his brain. Another summon. He stops the spar, looking at Bakugo before looking at his hands. "Hey, you know how I explained the way of getting new summon, right? The info flooding into your head?" Bakugo nods. "Yeah." Deku stares at him. "Well, I just got some, and it seems powerful too. You trying to help me fight this thing? I feel like I'm ready." Bakugo smirks, staring at Deku like a demon. "Huh, is that even a question, nerd? What do you think? Of course I'm gonna help. What is it this time? I hope it's as powerful as those other ones. It's gonna be a tough fight for sure." Deku nods. "It's an elephant. It looks like he uses water attacks. You sure you can handle this?" Bakugo laughs. "Please, try me. I'll take it down by myself." They bicker a little bit before finally Deku locks in. Bakugo stands back as Deku starts the incantation. He babbles some words under his breath before making a myriad of hand signs. The door slams shut behind him, windows closing around him. Looks like a horror movie set. Lights from outside being covered up by curtains. A single lamp on the roof stayed lit, illuminating nothing but Deku. His shadow moved slightly before slamming open, opening to the size of a bus with a huge elephant pouring out of it, looking pissed. It screeches with its trunk. You know that sound, Bakugo from the back looks shocked. Whoa, it's huge. You said this thing can shoot water, right? Deku nods. Midway through the incantation as finally the elephant breaks through. Right away, Deku jumps back, drained as anything. That Loki took a lot out of him for some reason. Him and Bakugo watch as it turns, swinging its trunk at the two of them. He almost clips Bakugo, his life flashing before his eyes. Damn, you fought these things alone before? He starts rushing at it, dodging its trunk once more before landing a huge explosion on its head. It roars once again before taking a huge breath in. Deku's eyes go wide. Dodge, Bakugo, dodge! Fearing the worst, Deku quick summons a toad, sending its tongue out right as the water connected. He dodges by about a centimeter, Bakugo thanking him for the save before the two of them both go in. This time, Deku rides on Nue, Bakugo hopping on his back as they fly up. You got any ideas, nerd? Deku smirks. Well, I figured we may as well use the water against it, right? He looks down, a puddle of water coating the feet of the elephant. You know what to do, Nue. Fry this big back. Nue flaps his wings a single time, a huge lightning bolt coming down from where its wings touched. It connects with the elephant, going through its entire body before touching the water. This grounds it, sending a shock through the entire building. Everything cackles slightly. The light begins to fritz around them. The elephant tweaks and twitches. It's go time, we can tame it. They both jump down, Bakugo jumping right and Deku jumping left. They swing, Deku backflipping for aura before staring it down. It looks back at him, charging a water attack as Deku speaks. Now, divine dog, stick him! As he says this, Totality spawns in next to him. Bakugo readies some explosions in his palm, storing extra in his palm as he spins, an early version of howitzer impact. Go to hell, you dumb elephant! The two attacks hit at once, knocking it right out. It also gives it a nice little scar on its right side. Deku tames it right after that. He keeps it out for a while so we could test it and use it for a little bit, because, he didn't want to have to resummon it later. Oh, and if you wanted to know, by the way, Deku can use about 20% one for all at this point, though he doesn't have the previous user's quirks yet, just because his quirk is like, taking the brunt of it right now. That's why he's not punching and stuff, just give me time. All that afternoon, they fight against Deku's summons. They get stronger physically, and Deku gets better at using his weaker summons in fights. After that, they go home. Deku tells Inko about his friendship with Bakugo, which she doesn't like at the start, but comes around to. He sleeps that night off, popping into his own head. Not like the info dumps he usually gets. This time, it was like he was inside of himself, inside of his own soul. He swam around in what felt like an endless darkness. It felt warm, the perfect temperature. He looked up, the stars littered the sky around him, surrounded by a giant structure he couldn't quite make out yet. One that kinda looked like a rib bone. After he saw this, he awoke, waking up in a pool of his own sweat, panting and weirdly out of energy. What was that? He stays up all night, unable to sleep again, trying but not being able to even close his eyes. For a week or two, Deku and Bakugo continue on with these type of training sessions. Deku getting himself up to 22% one for all, and through this would get better mastery over his new summon, Max Elephant. Its water was powerful, but summoning it was a drag and it cost him a lot of energy. Due to this, he practices, mostly on his fighting style, trying to incorporate himself into the mix more, kind of forgetting he had one for all a little bit. Like, his quirk's been so useful in every single situation so far that he's barely had to fight himself, so. Anyways, for those weeks, nothing really goes on. They go through schooling, regular stuff, more hero training with All Might before finally the USJ would come upon us. Whew, finally. The class loads up onto the bus, Deku letting them go in whatever order they want, which drives Ida mad. He laughs staring at this, people sitting and chatting on the whole bus ride. Froppy, like usual, would ask the class who she thought was the strongest. This time, 90% of the class immediately said Deku was, except for two, Bakugo and Todoroki. The two of them tried to plead their case, Bakugo being like, "I'll just explode that dumb nerd." People facepalm hearing this. A heated discussion erupting in the class which Deku and Aizawa were listening on, until they finally make it, hopping out and rushing inside the USJ. They all sit and stare in awe, Pro Hero 13 huddling them together before beginning her lame ass speech. Deku hearing this sighs, continuing to look around, not caring the slightest what she had to say. He scans the area. Water would be good for Nue. Toads would be cool there too, turning to the middle of the USJ and seeing what he can only describe as a blur. He turns to Aizawa. Yo, Aizawa, what's that down there? Aizawa finally clocks it. Everybody stay back. They're villains. Real ones. Right away, Deku lunges forward, grin on his face, ready to bust some ass. This is until Aizawa stops him. He uses his scarf, dragging Deku to the floor. Remember 2 weeks ago, Deku. Don't give it all up because of that big head. As he says this, he flies down the stairs. Deku on the floor slams his fist. Fine, but I'm not going to be useless. He stands back up, going into his class, sitting next to Bakugo and talking. Well, I don't know about you, but the first villain I see, I'm getting. You win? Bakugo smirks. Damn straight. Let's make this into a little game, I reckon. Todoroki, overhearing this, smirks too. Game, huh? You cool if I play too? They all look at each other, huge grins taking over their faces. They scan the area until Deku sees something coming from right in front of him. Not even telling the other two as he shoots right at it, the ground below him cracking a little bit from where he left. Mid-air, he forms a hand sign. Let's zap this thing back to where it came from! Nue, get his ass! He's about 5 meters away as Korigiri fully forms, about to teleport Deku until something comes from above. A huge lightning stroke strikes Korigiri down where he stands, completely cooking his ass there and then. Because he had that metal bit, it only hit that. So really he kinda got a crit. Korigiri is right off bat taken down. 13 can't even complain either, he just saved her this time and probably her career. He looks back at the other two, pulling a tongue out and making the bleh, that type of face, you know. They get mad a little bit, scanning the area like as in canon. Ida is sent off to run. This time, since Korigiri is out, they don't get teleported, all of them watching from above as Aizawa fought the fodder. The big three stand in front, shoulder to shoulder. Bakugo speaking. Damn, he can box, low-key. I didn't think he had it in him. Deku nods his head and agrees. I'm kinda proud of him, using all the moves I taught him. The other two look at him before giggling, looking back down again. Todoroki this time speaking up. Well, Midoriya's already a point ahead, so better get moving, I say. Bakugo smirks. Couldn't agree more. Better keep up, Deku. The two of them shoot off the staircase right in the line of fire. Shigaraki watches them flying down, Deku at the top. Shigaraki from the bottom notices Korigiri is not back, and he sees the three students jumping down. Well, two. He starts fearing the worst. Grr, Korigiri, you better not have been defeated! He laughs to himself a little bit, figuring no brat of UA could beat Korigiri that easily, thinking he was just torturing some pro or something like that. He watches as finally the third student jumps down too, riding on what seemed like a weird bird. Aizawa seeing its shadow on the floor flying over him would get angry. I thought I told him not to move. That cocky little shit, I'm gonna make sure he does extra work for this. Though I do need the hand. Deku scans the area from above. The villains in front of Aizawa were just about to start. He looked around the place. They were littered everywhere. They were only going to get trapped if they fought open in the middle like that. Then he looks down, seeing Shigaraki and a weird bird-looking creature about the size of All Might. Something in the back of his mind knew that it wasn't human, or at least it wasn't anymore. His face goes sour before turning angry. As Bakugo and Todoroki got into battle, so did Deku. Nue's wings stop flapping. It falls into a spin before locking in like a missile into a dive bomb. Deku holds on for dear life. Now, Nue, get that big bird thing first. Nue dives closer and closer to the floor, its wings whistling through the air as it opens up again. 20 meters away, its wings open wide, slowing down until it's about 10 meters away. The Nomu not moving as Shigaraki didn't think it was its target. As the wings open up, they begin shining bright blue. Aizawa watching on from a distance as Deku appeared out of nowhere. The sound he make was like, if you've ever seen How to Train Your Dragon, you know when like Toothless and shit starts going down really quick? That's what it sounds like, bro. Soaring straight through that shit and he stopped. Dead still. The blue light turns white as Deku pumps more and more cursed energy into it. Nue growing and growing. Shigaraki seeing this finally clocks it. Dodge, Nomu, dodge! It's too late. The wings glow white before zapping with electricity. They spark to life, coming close and connecting right in front of the Nomu. It can't react as it zaps a little bit before BOOM! The Nomu can't dodge. It doesn't even move in time. Deku slamming the attack right into its stomach and sending a pulse right through it. Dust is kicked up as the Nomu tanks the attack. Deku jumps off Nue and desummons it, fearing a counterattack. He watches on as the dust clears and the Nomu is visible again. It has a huge hole in it, like after Toji after taking that hollow purple. The Nomu looks down at itself before screeching, tweaking a little bit as a regen kicks in. Everyone stands horrified as it tanks it completely, eating it for lunch. Shigaraki laughs, pointing at Deku. You had me worried there for a second, kid, won't even lie. But it seems you're just a side character, an NPC. Now, Nomu, kill this little shit. The Nomu turns his head at Deku, staring him down. Deku knows this was bad news, knowing he was cooked if he even got touched by that thing. On instinct, he makes a hand sign for rapid escape. They pour out of his shadows, acting like a wall as the Nomu throws a fist. Bunnies turn his shadows in front of him. Even through that, Deku is clipped. He gets sent flying backwards, coughing up blood and about to slam into the staircase. He does the whole that thing. Todoroki saves him with some ice, redirecting him and helping him get his stuff together. Deku falls to the floor, sliding off the ice. He coughs up some more blood, weakly standing up as Nomu twists his head to look at him again. He can't even react as Nomu rushes back in once more. This time, Deku doesn't get time to dodge or counter. He takes the attack head on, activating 25% full cowling last second, but it wasn't enough. The Nomu grabs his leg, picking him up. Shigaraki starts laughing. "Good idea, Nomu. Slam that brat into the floor and then throw him off like the Hulk." He laughs like a maniac as Nomu slams Deku. He ragdolls him against the floor before sending him flying across the USJ. He flies towards the boat and across the water, skipping once, twice before slamming into the boat, falling limp into the water. Aizawa looks over. No. No! Bakugo and Todoroki lock in, staring at the Nomu as Shigaraki starts talking again. "What did you think was gonna happen, heroes? What's that old saying? You send a brat to a fight and he ends up a stain? Ha! Aizawa, you especially should have known better." Aizawa drops his head. He was kinda right. The other two are horrified. They were treating this like a game, and now Deku might be dead for it. Deku falls into the water turning red as he does so. With the last remains of consciousness, he forms a weak hand sign, pouring some cursed energy into forming a single toad. The toad was summoned onto the boat, grabbing Deku and pulling him ashore. Deku lays there for a solid minute, drifting in and out of death. He was losing tons of blood and no one could help him. Aizawa, Bakugo and Todoroki all tried to fight the Nomu, Aizawa making it quirkless before the other two rushed in. They hold it off for a while until finally All Might arrives, coming down and doing his usual fight against the Nomu. As this goes on, Deku dreamed, eyes closed, dreaming of the other side. In his mind, he saw the same pool of shadows. He felt the same warm sensation all over him. This time, something spoke to him. Words he couldn't understand until their meaning flowed into his brain. It was another Shikigami. This time, it was willing to help him. It gives itself up willingly. Deku waking up in a daze with his hands already forming the sign. He pours every ounce of cursed energy he had left into it, one for all flickering on instinct. His hands formed a deer sign, his shadow tiny, then bulged, the boat rocking from the villains attacking it. He finished the incantation under his breath before it finally summoned round deer. It came to being, looking around at the situation before looking at Deku. It held its head down at Deku while a white light emanated from its nose. Deku seeing this is confused, something instinctively telling him to touch it, and that it's fine and completely safe. He holds his hand out, doing so, getting positive energy coursing throughout him. Now, if you don't know, that is called reverse curse technique. As the boat shakes, Deku begins to heal. His bones snap into place, his wounds shut and his body beginning to be remade. He feels that same warm feeling as he did when he was in the dream. Lifting his head to see the deer, he thanked it for the help, feeling better than ever, slowly beginning to stand up. He dispelled round deer before looking at the water below him. Knowing he was out of cursed energy, he starts flowing one for all instead, pushing it to 35%. His newly created bones creak, his muscles tearing, but he doesn't care. He jumps off the boat, flying over at the battlegrounds again. The boat shoots and sends a tidal wave which crushes the villains in the water. The people on the main island stop and look, having heard something only to see Deku was once again coming back for more. Todoroki and Bakugo smile seeing this, as does Aizawa. He flies right at the Nomu, All Might and it still battling. "Move, All Might, this freak's mine!" All Might looks up to see Deku flying at it, Shigaraki confused. "What? How did you heal that damage off? I thought you were dead!" Nomu. He's cut off by Deku landing, his arm coursing with one for all, this time 100%. Aizawa watches, cancelling the Nomu's quirk one final time. Get him, kid. Deku cocks his arm back, watching as the Nomu threw its arm off of instinct. "Go to hell, freak!" He slams the punch right into the Nomu's gut. Deku's arm breaking on contact, but it's enough. His entire arm goes through the Nomu's chest before the wind pressure slams it backwards. It tries to fight back, but it's too much. He gets sent flying, landing in another city altogether. Deku's arm hangs limp to its side. Damn, that hurt more than I thought. Everyone alright? Everyone's shocked looking at the state of him. All his previous injuries were healed, but what just happened to his arm? All Might decides to ask later, instead looking over at Shigaraki. "Now you, Who do you work for? He flashes his aura. Shigaraki's starting to tweak a little bit. In his mind, he was freaking out. Korigiri, where are you? Where are you, Korigiri? Until something saves him. A black sludge from his mouth oozing out. Shigaraki and Korigiri being taken back to All For One before anyone could do a single thing. All For One, having watched over the intercoms with a Quirk, would smile. So that's the successor of One For All. This is gonna be interesting. Shigaraki starts tweaking. One For All? Successor? Master, what are you talking about? Either way, I'm gonna kill him. All For One stares down at Shigaraki, watching as he foamed at the mouth. His anger reached new heights. Now, do you see why you need more power? Let me help you and we can kill more than just him. He reaches his hand out, Shigaraki looking at it before grabbing it. Because of his humiliation, he would decide to take the surgery a lot earlier than in canon, and due to that, Shigaraki will be ready about the hero license exam arc. Anyways, after this, Bakugo and Todoroki, along with Aizawa and All Might, would be questioned about the villains they saw. All the fodder being locked up for the max sentence as the four of them talk. They explain the Nomu to them, telling them about Shigaraki, his plans for All Might, and how Deku saved them. They all hope he's doing the best. Deku, meanwhile, was rushed off to Recovery Girl, being injured but only minorly. His damages from the Nomu had been healed completely. It was only a couple of scratches on his arm. She heals it off and lets him go that evening. Talking to All Might on the beach, he meets him down there. Talking to All Might on the beach. He meets him down there, the two of them sitting down, Deku completely silent and looking down as All Might starts talking. So kid, tough fight you just went through. I honestly don't know how you're still alive. He's cut off by Deku, who finally lifts his head. All Might, do you want to be healed? During the USJ, let me just show you. He pulls up the hand signs for round deer, a huge deer emerging with horns the size of Christmas trees. It bows its head at Deku before looking at All Might. All Might's shocked to see this. What is it, kid? Is this a new one? There's more? Deku nods, telling him it's okay and to go closer. All Might would do so as the deer lifts its head. Its horns whistled through the wind as it faces the wound All Might had, looking at it like it was almost assessing it. Its eyes closed before a white light would cover his respiratory system. Deku, seeing this, would touch the deer, feeding his own cursed energy into it for more output. All Might feels a pain before a searing sensation. Oh, kid, what's... He coughs out blood before suddenly he buffs up again, the beach around him dimly lit with a faint healing light. It stops and the deer dissipates. Deku feeling a little bit woozy, looking up at All Might. So, how do you feel? All Might lifts his shirt. It was completely gone. He looks at Deku before going into a huge hug. Loki's starting to cry. You don't know how much I've wanted this. He thanks Deku profusely before legit just dipping, going off to fight crime just for the fun of it. Deku smiles seeing this, waddling back home in a cast, meeting his mum and going straight to bed. He would still be questioned, but in the morning after, having gotten a lot of info from the others, so it wasn't really needed. This is at the police station, by the way. He's dispelled and they go back to school. As he walks in, people stop and stare. Some getting flashbacks from him skipping across the water, another getting a flashback of the water turning red. Mineta in the back starts crying. I thought you died. Everyone goes up and thanks him. You know, it's stuff for fighting for him, you know. Deku rubs the back of his neck before looking at Todoroki, Aizawa, and Bakugo. Well, I wouldn't be alive if it weren't for these three. All that matters is that I got the most points. He smirks, looking over. Bakugo looks pissed, as does Todoroki. They both try to argue their sides. Deku saying the Nomu counted for like 20 points or something. Aizawa, hearing this, finally snaps. He sits them down before explaining the UA Sports Festival. They sit and stare at Aizawa before erupting in a cheer. Oh my god, the UA Sports Festival, hell yeah, I completely forgot about that. They all celebrate. Aizawa telling them they have another week to train, but after that, it's fair game. Deku smiles, looking at Bakugo and Todoroki, kind of miming to come with him after class. Everyone's dismissed, and the three of them would open the door, seeing a huge crowd of people in front of them. Bakugo does as usual. Who are these extras? You know, that type of thing. Deku looking at them all before smirking and turning back to his class. Well, I'll see you in the gym. Meet me there, slowpokes. He jumps up into the air before sinking into the floor. The class, horrified. Bakugo and Todoroki are in shock. What? He can do that? Even Aizawa's impressed. Eventually they make it through and meet Deku at the gym, who says they should train together. They all look to each other before agreeing, forming that kind of thing that they have in the later seasons of MHA, you know, like season 6-ish, like, you know, that kind of bond. But even closer, if anything. Over the week, they do nothing but train, Deku learning to utilize his technique and summons, especially Round Deer and Max Elephant. Doing this, he decreases times for summonings to take. So, let's say he's like mid-air, he can summon Round Deer and heal mid-air, you know. that type of thing. Over this week, not just Deku makes strides. Through talking with him and Bakugo, Todoroki gets much better with this whole daddy issues problem. Deku and Bakugo having straightened his head out a little bit more, doing the whole, it's your quirk, you know, that whole thing, a lot earlier than in canon. Deku and Bakugo during this time would spar as well. Bakugo boxing with totality and stuff because it mimics humans well. Due to this, he also gets strides in, developing AP shot much earlier than in canon. Either way, all the three of them were beasts. Training together was the right idea, and thus the 1 week was over and the UA Sports Festival was finally upon him. Deku wakes up in the morning of the fest ready. He'd been practicing some of his techniques alone, not wanting to show them off to the other two, especially one that he thinks will work very nicely against Todoroki. He eats a nice breakfast before making his way to school. Inko in the car giving him a nice motivational speech, you know, putting some mental music on, you know, until finally he arrives. He walks into school, seeing the heroes, people, stalls, everything. He was shocked at how big the place was in person. Like, right away he sees some heroes he likes, you know, Mount Lady and stuff, going up to them and getting their signature before finally making his way inside. He makes it into the locker rooms of Class 1A, walking in and looking all smug. Hey, Mineta. Mineta like waddles over, kind of freaked out thinking Deku was gonna beat him or something. Yeah, I got you something, gang. He opens up his notebook, showing a signature of Mount Lady with a kiss next to it. Mineta starts spazzing. Thank you, Midoriya. He scurries off like a little cockroach as Deku begins to look to his left. Hearing some footsteps approaching, both Todoroki and Bakugo grab a shoulder each, looking at Deku clean in the eye. They both speak at the same time. I'm gonna win. All three of them looking around, the class going silent before they start arguing. Bakugo's like, you dumbasses, my explosion's gonna blow you all out of the water. I'm gonna be number one, easy. Todoroki cuts in, nah, I'll just freeze you in your little explosions. Plus I got fire, I can just burn you. Deku smirks looking at the two of them. Well, someone's gotta come second place, right? They both lock back in, looking at Deku. You're gonna eat those words, nerd. I've been practicing some moves alone that none of you are ready for. Bakugo walks off, as does Todoroki, all getting into the swing of the competition, as finally Midnight calls him out. Deku walks out looking confident as ever, standing side by side with Bakugo and Todoroki, all of them pushing and shoving himself a little bit, until Deku was called up to the front. He looks back and gives a little wave to the other two, who are shocked. He shrugs before turning away, walking to the front of the stage and grabbing the mic from Midnight. He blows into it to see if it was working, looking out into the crowd, looking a little bit cheeky as he speaks. I'm gonna win, but someone's gotta come second place, right? He stares at Todoroki and Bakugo as he says this. The crowd not getting it, boos him at the start, throwing stuff onto the floor. Someone's like, boo, this guy sucks already. The pros settle him down as finally the first event is chosen, the obstacle course. Deku hearing this is gassed. This was made for him. The other two look worried. They knew Deku had the advantage here, but they weren't going to give up that easy. Like normal, they would load into the tunnel. Deku, Todoroki and Bakugo being at the very front of the pack because of plot, you know, people in the crowd finally noticing the rivalry between them all. They kind of start backing it. People picking their favorite of one of the three, cheering on for him. Kind of evenly split low-key. Everything goes silent as Midnight raises her starter's gun, pointing into the sky before boom! Right away Deku jumps, figuring Todoroki was going to try some BS. Read him like a book. He kicks off the people behind him, doing a front flip into a roll and taking off. He's about half a meter behind Todoroki and Bakugo, who don't need to stop at the start. Bakugo starts, bye-bye loser. He kicks some dirt at Deku, which Deku gets into his eye. This makes him pissed a little bit, you know, but he respects the game. As they continue running, Deku stops, summoning Nue from his shadows. It stays completely silent behind him. Bakugo and Todoroki are completely clueless until it whizzes past him at top speed. It flies dead silent like an owl, something he'd been practicing for a while now. He shoots past the two of them, them stopping to stare before getting rid of all restraint, starting to chase. Todoroki freezes his zero-pointers in their tracks, not even caring about the others behind him. Bakugo explodes another zero-pointer to the left, all three of them making it to the big-ass pit. Deku, of course, flies over this, you know, watching as the other two run over it like apes. He laughs from above, seeing the next portion, the minefield. A sadistic grin comes over his face, watching the other two. They rush over the top of it, fighting between each other. Heh, cavemen. Let me spice it up a little bit. The crowd watches as Deku flies down, dropping till he's about 10 meters above the other two. Let's make this more fun, shall we? He jumps off Nue, running next to the other two and activating one for all 30%. They look up as he falls down, knowing something bad was about to happen. As they look up, they see Nue floating above them. Getting the right idea, they start sprinting. Thankfully, they do too, because Nue starts beaming lightning down. Nue starts aiming at the spots with the mines in it. All three of them running at top speeds, trying to get away from the mines that were exploding behind them, in front and everywhere. Nue sets him off, the crowd going nuts. What? What is that bird thing? President Mike smirks, holding the mic. That there is Izuku Midoriya, not the bird, the man. A top runner for the #1 position once he's finished high school. His quirk, the 7 Shadows technique, allows him to summon animal-like creatures from his shadows. It's really creepy seeing it in person, but I promise you, you're all in for a show when you watch him. Aizawa then butts in. You also can't forget the other 2 top runners this year, Katsuki Bakugo and Shoto Todoroki. Even within Class 1A, these 3 stand out. This year's competition will be deadly. Make sure to keep an eye on them, I promise. People in the crowd go nuts. They start cheering them on, seeing a rivalry they had off bat. They continue running, Deku being behind Bakugo and Todoroki being up the back. They fight while running, dodging lightning from above and mines from below. Every part of their hero training and fighting coming through as they finally make it through the gate. Deku in this timeline gets second and Todoroki actually takes the W, having last second frozen a wall in front of the other 2 just to slow him down. Bakugo gets third, which at first he's pissed about, but you know, he lets it go. From there, everyone else who gets in, and the second event is chosen. This time, the cavalry battle. Now, I usually don't cover this, but I wanted to this time. Deku hearing this would immediately turn to the other 2 who stare back at him. They all crack grins before forming a mutual team just to make it through. Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo all on a team would be a wash. Deku summons new air. They all sit on it, which allows the team to attack from all angles. They're cracked. There's just no way anyone's getting the top points from them, so this goes on quick. Bakugo being sent out on missions with his quirk would get even more headbands. Deku using Toad and Todoroki freezing people. In the end, they finish with every single headband. People shocked at how well they work together. Due to this, they have to redo the cavalry battle once again, this time without their team. The rest of the winners being the same as in canon, the regular people getting into the 1v1s. Deku in this timeline is still up first and still up against Shinso, something he would be kinda bummed about until the tail guy came up and warned him. Deku stopped him halfway through, telling him that he didn't really want to cheat and that he'll be fine, trust him. He waits a minute or 2 before being called out into the arena. People start cheering and going nuts as soon as he even steps out. Deku steps out feeling and looking different. He did not play about the 1v1s, and especially when he has to fight in the later rounds. Well, he knew that he had good fights in the later rounds, you know, so he had to stay in. He readies himself, watching as Shinso does too. He gets into a weak combat stance before starting to trash talk. Deku's confused on why he's chatting, but decides there's nothing to worry about. As the gun shoots, Deku rushes in. He wanted to show off his combat style a little bit to the pros watching. He rushes right, Shinso talking as Deku makes a hand sign. People in the crowd watch as Deku's shadow darkens a little bit, the camera getting a nice close-up image of it as it swirls before spitting out a frog. The little frog jumps out of the shadows, sending a tongue right at Shinso. His eyes go wide as it grabs onto him. Now I got you. Shinso goes white. He couldn't lose like this. Right away, he starts tweaking. Deku lifts him up to the air as he starts going crazy. You and your stupid quirk. How does it feel to be blessed? How does it feel to never have to work for anything? Deku hearing this kinda laughs a little bit, putting Shinso down as he opened his mouth. The tail guy in the crowd has his eyes open wide as Deku starts to respond. Just like that, it was wraps. Deku right away is gone, sent off into his mind. He sees himself walking out of bounds, watching like he's in third person. In his head, he speaks. No, there's no way. Not to a general course student. He starts trying to move, but nothing. His body itches closer and closer to the edge, starting to feel warm again. Deku gets memories of the boat at the USJ. As he gets in closer and closer to the edge, he gets deeper and deeper into himself pause. His mind sinks, eventually reaching himself, his inner domain. This time he had a body, which he could see himself and feel himself. His shadows crashed around him like waves on a beach. They mixed and swirled with him in the middle point. He sees his summons forming and then dispelling, forming with nothing but shadows. Once again he looks up, seeing a strange building, this time much more clearly. As he sees this, his shadows in the real world start to react. President Mark going crazy. What? Izuku Midoriya seems to be walking out. Could he had a change of hearts? Aizawa comes over the mic, doing his whole, this is why the entrance exam is rigged, that whole thing, until in a split second, about 2 steps away from the edge, Deku would fall. His shadow beneath him opens up as he steps right inside. Right away, he's cleansed from the brainwashing, sinking deeper and deeper into his shadows. Looking up, he sees a ring, finding Shinso's shadow from below. Like Miro, he catapults himself out of Shinso's shadow. Shinso none the wiser as Deku rocks him in the jaw. He gets airtime from this, the crowd going crazy with this. What? He can go to shadows too? And the shadows of others? Bakugo and Todoroki seeing this smirk. Seems he's been keeping that one secret for a while now. Deku, having done that, was confused. He knows he was brainwashed, but how did his quirk activate? He thinks back to the place he keeps seeing, something in his head telling him it was important. He shoves it aside and goes back to the locker room. This time he doesn't talk with Todoroki or anything. Having trained with him, he already knows that type of stuff. They do wish each other a good match before finally they're called up. Deku and Todoroki both walk out to complete their second round. Now, this is going to go a lot different than in canon. Deku can't just break the ice, so Todoroki's much more of a nuisance. What Todoroki doesn't know though is that Deku has been training for exactly this. See, Deku unlocked Max Elephant, but it's way too much energy to summon, and it honestly isn't really worth the cost, you know, in his opinion. What was though was the water. Deku, knowing this, would have trained, eventually getting to a point where he can just summon the water. Well, 10 shadows can't do that. Sukuna did, bud. Anyways, Deku walks with his hand in a weird spot. Like, he looks like Mina when she's trying to train a special move, or Choso when he's trying to do piercing blood. Todoroki's confused by this. Wait, another hand sign? What could it be? He got a new summon? Midnight sends her pistol right away as Todoroki sends a huge geyser of ice towards Deku. Deku watches it coming towards him, crystals forming around the entire arena. Not enough, Todoroki! In a split second, the end of Deku's fingers gets slightly wet. His hands begin to hum and whistle like a kettle before BOOM! Deku shoots off a huge pressurized beam of water at the ice. He slams left, slicing up before the water dissipates. He smirks, seeing as it completely cut through the ice, the concrete behind him on the stadium being cut too. Todoroki's shocked. What? How did he do that? Remembering back to his training. The elephant is that damn elephant. He once again locks in, sending more ice at Deku, who would dodge it. Ice covering about half the arena at this point. Some people in the stands fighting over who they think is the GOAT until Deku makes a move. He holds his arm up in a familiar hand sign, one that Todoroki hadn't seen in a while. Shit, so he's trying to block my... As he says this, rabbits start pouring out from Deku. Todoroki losing his complete sight of him, as in an instant, the arena fills with rabbits. This time though, they all lock in. Like Megumi versus Toji, they rush Todoroki. They straight up jump him. All the rabbits try to like box him and stuff. We had a cool scene of Todoroki sitting there fighting a couple of rabbits. He pulls out fire to try and incinerate them until his right side arm is caught. He looks behind him, seeing a toad on each of his side with a tongue wrapped around each wrist. When did he... He looks around before remembering back to the Shinso Fight. Before he can even dodge, Deku was already coming up. While in the rabbits, Deku summoned the toads before jumping into his shadow. He waited before Todoroki was caught before flying up and sending a mean uppercut right into his jaw. Now, unlike Shinso, this does damage to him, but it doesn't knock him out. Todoroki sent into the air. Deku about to hit a combo on him before Todoroki swings out his legs. Knowing he couldn't dodge, he set up a counterattack instead. He connects with Deku's stomach and sends a fire-powered kick right at it, looking like that guy from Fire Force. Deku tumbles back, spitting and vomiting on the floor a little bit. Oh, damn! That was a good kick. Sheesh, that shit hurt. Todoroki smiled. Like you can talk. That punch had me seeing the gates for a second there. They laughed a little bit before locking back in, rushing into the middle. This time, deciding to finish it. They give the crowd what they want to see, both of them starting to charge up their most powerful attack. Deku watches as Todoroki lights up both sides, a move he's been practicing for this exact match. He controls both sides to be exactly opposite each other, upping the temperature more and more. Deku can feel the hot steam coming off of him. He feels how much pressure Todoroki had built up already. Knowing he couldn't match his offense like that, he decides to pull out his final trump card. As Todoroki's about a second away from releasing his attack, Deku reaches down. Todoroki in the crowd watching as his shadow once again became liquid, stirring before something shiny came out. Todoroki, too focused on attacking, doesn't see this. He sends his attack out, which Deku in this timeline tanks, steam and dust kicking up the entire stadium. Everyone in the crowd being completely covered. The audience starts doing like having gotten dirt in their mouth. President Mike's confused. What the hell's wrong with your students? Aizawa does the whole steam explanation before the smoke all of a sudden clears. Everyone's shocked, watching as Nue blows the dirt and dust away right back at Todoroki. He's shocked. How did he... Until he sees it, a shield planted into the floor. Where did that even... Before he can finish his thoughts, Deku was already there, having snuck up on Todoroki. He slams him with the right hook to the side, which sends him tumbling before speaking. Now, fry him before he gets up again. Nue does just that. Its wings flap before sparking. Todoroki wide-eyed as a shoot of lightning comes right at him. It connects with him right into the chest. Thankfully, it's enough to win, but he had just used a lot of cursed energy. Todoroki wakes up about a minute later, looking at the stage from the outside. He kind of slams his hand against the floor before smirking, looking up at Deku. As he does so, he looks at Deku before looking to his right. Everyone starts getting confused, as does Todoroki, seeing the shield in the middle of the stadium that came out of nowhere. Deku walks over to him and helps him up. Todoroki right away asking what the hell that was. Deku smirks. Well, I was gonna save it for Bakugo, but guess not. I'll explain it later. You need to go get some rest. He listens, going to do so. Deku going back before making his way to the third and final round. This time, versing Bakugo. If you didn't get that, by the way, he watched like Todoroki charge up his final attack. He's like, damn, there's no way I'm gonna dodge this. So he grabbed a shield out of his shadow because he can do that, which he was originally saving for Bakugo, but, you know, he decided to use it against Todoroki, just clearing it up anyway. All for One watches on his little TV, assessing every part of Deku's quirk. He needed all the info he could get before he stole it and make it his own. He looks to his left, seeing the tank Shigaraki was in. How long left, Doctor? The Doctor rushes to All for One's side. 1 month left, sire. Then you will be unstoppable. All for One smirks. Well, he can't really smirk because he doesn't have a mouth or anything, but yeah, you get what I mean. From there, they chill in the locker room. Deku sitting with Todoroki and explaining after he got healed how he can store stuff in his shadows and how the shield was going to be for versing Bakugo, but his power was just too much. He gives Todoroki props before walking out, his final match being called up. This is where it gets good. Deku, knowing Bakugo, knows he wouldn't hold anything back. They walk out to the middle of the stage, both of them getting introduced by Present Mike. Final round of the UA Sports Festival. Azuka Midoriya versus Bakugo. A fated battle between sparks and shadows awaits us now, people. Get excited. The crowd goes nuts. The heroes outside stop and look back at the huge TV. They see the two of them walking onto the stage, stopping and staring. Midnight once again raises her gun, the two of them not even breaking eye contact as it's finally shot off. Right away, Bakugo jumps into the air, cupping his hands together and making a move that Deku hadn't seen yet. He blasts off hella small explosions before shining it right at Deku. Flash grenade! Deku's blinded for a second, his vision going white as Bakugo lands. He starts making weird movements all over the place, letting off more and more explosions as Deku was still blinded. The smoke from them making a smoke screen which Deku couldn't see through. As he finally could see again, he looks around, seeing as the entire arena was filled with smoke. So this is your plan, huh? He crouches down, his eyesight finally clearing. Good move actually. I gotta think about this. Bakugo using this to his advantage. People in the crowd complain about not being able to see. Deku hearing this smirks. Knew it. Like versing Todoroki, he blows the dust and smoke away, seeing Bakugo rushing right at him. There you are! He turns to him, pulling a hand sign that Bakugo hadn't seen in a while. No, not that! He looks behind him, to the right and to the left, confused until he sees a shadow overtaking his from above. He looks up, seeing a huge-ass elephant about to drop on his head. His eyes go wide, exploding up all of the sweat that he had saved up just to dodge. Damn it, I didn't know he could summon that thing in the air. Either way, he's got to be tired after that. Now's the time. He smirks, rushing in, dodging a strike from Max Elephant from behind before sending a haymaker explosion at Deku. Deku puts a guard up, tanking the explosion on his arm before smirking. He sees as Bakugo is about to land. Deku sends a foot out, opening up his shadow. Bakugo, too focused on offense, wouldn't see this, landing into it and immediately falling in. He looks around him, seeing nothing but black. He feels himself falling, feeling like he was trapped underwater. Everything was silent. He swore he saw things moving around in there too. Being more than creeped out, Bakugo explodes, exploding himself out of there just in time. Deku, not expecting this, jumps backwards. Trapping someone else in there was a first for him, so he didn't know what would happen. Bakugo looks at him with a shit-eating grin on his face. Nice trick, Deku, but I got you now. He once again sends a haymaker explosion at Deku, which, this time he would dodge. Deku jumps backwards into a handspring to get away from him. Well, I didn't want it to come to this, Bakugo, but you leave me no choice. Just so you know, I haven't tamed this one yet. His smile widens, looking like Megumi when he was fighting that finger bearer. Bakugo confused before it clicks. No, don't, damn it! It's too late. People in the crowd feeling uneasy. The air in the stadium stopping and getting cold. Smoke didn't move. Light dimmed around them. Everyone watches as Deku's shadow spikes outwards, filling the entire ring before coming back in and spiking upwards. Bakugo's horrified. Knowing he was getting dragged into this with him, he starts to rush Deku. Deku is quicker though. He mumbles to himself some incantations before pumping his curse energy to the max. The teachers, pros, and students feel this. They all feel an evil presence watching them. Bakugo knew it was too late. Everything around them goes completely black. People from the stands watching as a sphere of energy surrounds the two of them before popping away into nothing. From there stood a bull, one that was rabid and had murder on its mind. It stares at Deku first, putting its head down and doing the whole bull kicking thing before rushing at Deku. Deku watches as it gets quicker and quicker the longer it goes on, so that's its power. This one will be useful then. It charges at Deku as he makes a hand sign. Now, Toad, get him! Two toads summon out of Deku, grabbing onto one of the bull's legs each. They try to pull, but its power is too much. Seeing this, Bakugo stands in. Die! He sends a full power explosion at the side, which tips it over. It freaks out a little bit before getting back up again. As much as I hate helping you, I know this thing's way too strong to beat alone. Deku smirks at him, calling a temporary peace treaty to beat it. The crowd watches as they rush in. Deku pulling out the elephant from before, using it to grab onto the bull so it couldn't run. As they're doing this, Aizawa begins to explain it. From there, he summons Nue, jumping on it and pouring max curse energy into it. Max Elephant, soak this place for me! The elephant would do so, taking a huge breath in before spraying the crowd, teachers, and stadium with water. Even the pros outside feeling it, thinking it started raining. Bakugo's confused. why? Until he sees Nue charging up its wings. He jumps off the ground as Nue sends out a max output attack at the bull. This would actually one-shot it. Deku having now access to piercing ox as well. Bakugo having seen this last attack gets angry. You wanted to hit me with that lightning back then, didn't ya? Deku smirks. Fight's not over, Kachan. You gotta lock back in. Once again, they rush in at each other. People going nuts, clipping it online. This was a final for the ages. They rush in. Deku now only with one for all. He pumps it to 35%. The two of them meeting in the middle and just boxing. Bakugo using his explosions to keep up and actually get some solid hits in. They sit in the middle and exchange blows, pause for a solid 5 minutes until eventually Deku falls and is knocked over. Yeah, he was tired and out of curse energy. There's just no way he's beaten Bakugo. He's helped up by an exhausted Bakugo, getting second place and giving the people the fight of their lives. Everyone whistles and cheers for all three of them. Someone in the crowd's like, Deku, please have my baby. You know, that type of stuff. After the sports fest, he's called up by Aizawa, meeting him up in his room. So, you got another one, huh? The 8 shadows now. Deku smirks and nods. Well, that, and I think I got something else. When I was brainwashed by Shinso, I felt like I was on the grasp of something. I think I just gotta train more. Maybe find myself a little bit, you know? Aizawa smirks. Well, at least you're getting stronger, kid. He walks off, and that would be the end of the UA Sports Festival. I also just realized that he would also fight Ida too. I'ma say he claps him, like, yeah. He makes him like fall into a shadow or something. I don't know, there's a million things he can do. And Ida this time doesn't get the call from his parents because, if you can remember, Deku beat Stain before he was even at UA, so that stuff ain't going down either. From there, Deku goes home. All that afternoon he sits and meditates, trying to go deeper and deeper, but he couldn't. He sleeps the rest of that day off and eventually wakes up the next. His curse energy replenished and him ready to face the day. He gets dressed before hopping right back into the car to go to school. From there, Deku walks through the halls, people hyping him up, some people asking for signatures, you know. He does sign some stuff, dapping some people up until finally he makes it to Class 1A. As he opens the door, he scans the room. People were all over the place. Aizawa's in his little caterpillar sleeping bag on the floor. Loose paper was littered all over the floor. He makes his way through, stepping all over the mess before finding his desk, which on top of had a huge binder that was already opened. He sits down before Bakugo looks at him and speaks. Hope you don't mind, nerd. I opened your binder already. I wanted to see who got more opportunities. Deku looks back. Oh yeah, and who did? Bakugo does like a little thing, turning his head and crossing his arms, as Aizawa finally stands up. Settle down, settle down. I expect this to be cleaned within the next 30 seconds or you're all doing laps. From there, the class freaks out, using their quirks to pick up all trash and clean the room in a solid 29 seconds. Aizawa impressed up the front. Well, glad that's over. Either way, as you can already see, you've been given your binder showing your potential internship opportunities. Pick wisely. This week could make or break your hero journey. Deku listens to this, especially the last part. Pick wisely, huh? They're given the rest of the day to read through their stuff along with all of tomorrow. Deku needing every single second because his list was huge. He would read it all day, reading it in the car on the way home, sitting his mum down and reading it with her, page by page, person by person. He rocks up to school the next day looking like a zombie, but he had finally found his person. The class wanted to hear it, but he was so tired that he fell asleep. He's woken up by Aizawa, who whips out a spare caterpillar sleeping bag. Deku hops in and right away sleeps the rest of the day off as people found their internships. Deku wakes up at the end of the day. Everyone had already gone. It was just him alone in the classroom. He gets up, looking around before stuffing the sleeping bag into his bag. He yawns and stretches before making his way out. Due to this, not a single person knows where he's going in this timeline. He would get home and get ready. As for tomorrow, he would be interning with a little hero named Miyako. He saw Gran Torino on his list like usual, and All Might recommended him personally, but Miyako stuck out to him more. He already knew full cowling, so that wasn't an issue. What was his close combat. Deku getting rocked and knocked out in the sports festival made him realize he needs better hands, and you know, who better? Along with this, I kind of figured I'd been using his quirk too much, and I want to do a sick 1v1 at the end, so this will pave the way. Either way, he wakes up the next day to make his way over, taking a train for a solid 2 hours before finally getting there. He looks at the card he was given before looking up. The building was huge. I could see it having like bunny ears or something. I don't know, I've never seen it. Either way, he walks inside, seeing Miyako's sidekicks, introducing himself and getting some pictures pictures with some people. Him already being like a little micro celebrity, you know. He'd then be walked to her office by her top sidekick. They chat on the way. The sidekick was surprised she even put in an internship this year, and that it's actually rare that Miyako trains anyone. Deku smirks hearing this, knowing the training must be good if she's not used to giving it out. He walks inside confident, scanning the place, left to right before locking back in on the middle. She sat at her desk, looking up. So this is a brat, huh? Hey kid. Deku looks at her smile still on face as she keeps going. I want to fight you, fair and square. The sidekick's face goes blank, as does Deku's for a second. He looks back at her, seeing she was dead serious. He smirks. Bet, let's run it now then. I got some new stuff I want to try anyways. Miyako smirks hearing that, getting into her seat and jumping over her desk to show Deku to her training grounds. They walk in, Deku seeing a pure concrete building. Concrete walls with steel support beams from the outsides on all sides. His steps and voice echoed with every step. He scanned the place. Well, you're not one for interior design, are you? The sidekick starts laughing at him. Miyako being like, shut up, kid, and quit laughing, you. Deku giggling a little bit as well. They finally make it to the middle of the building, Miyako stopping and turning to face Deku. Now, shall we? The sidekick gets out of the way instantly as they face off. Deku starting to hold his hands up, his fingers interlocking. Just so you know, I can heal myself, so don't hold back. Though, please don't destroy any of my summons. Miyako hears this, smiling a sadistic smile. She jumps full force at Deku, the ground beneath her feet cracking. She gains distance on Deku, getting closer, quicker and quicker, her leg pre-stretched and ready to kick. Deku sees this, clocking himself into the max of one for all he can muster at this point, 35%. His bones ache a little bit, but the pain feels good. He finishes summoning. Miyako shocked, seeing the same bull she saw from the sports festival. Deku stares her attack down as the bull rushes in from behind. Deku doesn't dodge either, waiting until both were just about to hit, Miyako from the front and the bull from the back, before he falls. Miyako's shocked, unable to dodge, would be clocked, sending a punch right at the bull's head, but to her surprise, the bull tanks it. She gets flung up into the air by this, her leg getting a nasty cut on it. She locks back in, smile growing more and more as the fight went on. Mid-air she spins, looking like a saw blade. Deku watches on, desummoning Piercing Ox. He thinks quick as she descends, leg going quicker and quicker by the second. He pulls another hand sign out before stomping his foot down. Now, Orochi, get! He's cut off. Miyako having dodged the sneak attack. Her combat experience won her over. Having been in like a flow-like state, after dodging she would spin, sending her leg out quicker than Deku can react. He watches as it connects with Orochi, sending it flying. Orochi gets a huge dent in the side of its head. It soars through the sky, slamming into the concrete walls. Miyako snaps back out of it. Kid, I'm sorry, I completely forgot. He walks over, slowing down as he steps closer before stopping and kneeling down. Well, it was bound to happen eventually. Still, it's the first full one I've lost. He turns back to Miyako, walking away as Orochi dissipated to dust behind him. Miyako's sad by this, thinking she just altered this kid's quirk or something. Kid, are you... Deku smirks, looking at her. It's fine. You didn't ruin my quirk, I promise. I can still feel its powers even now. I'm just gonna have to be a little bit more creative, I guess. Miyako's surprised hearing this. Deku making another hand sign, this time summoning Totality. He pumped as much curse energy into it as he could. It grows about half the size it was. Now, that should be able to tank your attacks better. Shall we? From there, they go at it, pause, going straight ham. Deku using all of his tricks. He copies some of Miyako's moves for himself, defeating her a couple times but being defeated more than he thought. They fight until they were both burnt out. Deku going every day, all day, until his curse energy was at 0 and his muscles couldn't move anymore. Both him and Miyako used round deer constantly to recharge both of them until it too dissipated. This goes on for the full week. Now, because he was getting healed the whole time, he would be growing exponentially quicker. Due to this, he's a little weak. Deku was now able to handle 60% one for all, along with making him much better in close combat. Fighting Miyako was crazy enough, but fighting a Miyako that knew you could heal yourself was another type of crazy. There's no distractions as either doesn't fight Stain, and as he ends up interning with his brother or something, I don't know. At the end of the week, they would finally be told to come back. Miyako would low-key be a little bit sad, having grown to like Deku. He was the perfect training partner, and due to him, she'd actually gotten stronger too. She thanks him and tells him he's free to train at here anytime, which Deku low-key notes. They say their goodbyes and Deku would take the train ride back home. Now, I will also mention during this time, I'm going to say Deku got his 9th Shikigami. This being Tiger Funeral. I'm going to say Deku and her like boxed it on the last day or something, I don't know. Now, due to us not knowing a single thing about this summon or what it can do, I'm gonna just say he got it and he won't use it ever for this entire what if. It's just gonna be a bum Shikigami that doesn't do anything, which means he's only got one left. One that he's known how to summon since the start, but that he's never wanted to. Big RAGA. After this, Deku would get back to UA, people talking about their internships. Bakugo looks at Deku up and down. Damn bro, what happened to you over there? Deku still had black eyes and some bruises from his spa this morning. Looking back at Bakugo, I got my ass beat, I'm not even gonna lie, but it was worth it, trust me. Bakugo smirks. You're gonna have to prove it then in a spa this afternoon. They're cut off by Aizawa, who once again comes into their classroom, standing up the front. Settle down, I know you all had a good time at your internships, but it's not time to celebrate. Did you forget you had final exams coming up in a week? Their faces go white, Deku included. He completely forgot about them. He was cooked. Freaking out a little bit internally, Deku looks to Bakugo, who looks at Todoroki. They all nod, deciding to study together. Kaminari and Kirishima getting in on the action before the rest of the class ends up joining as well. The whole class goes to the library as a big ass group, getting a hella study in before the entire week. Studying there pretty much all day until Deku, Bakugo and Todoroki would leave in the afternoon to go to the UA gym. They would all spar each and every day for the final week until the finals finally came. I don't know why I kept saying final. The theory exam wasn't too bad. Deku passed, but not by a lot, but that doesn't matter. What does is the prac exam. They get to the training site as the teachers come in, people being listed off one by one until eventually everyone's paired up, bar Deku. He's confused, looking around the place. He scans the teachers. They all look back at him with smiles, confused until he remembers. As he does so, All Might falls from the sky, holding Nezu on his side. I'm gonna just say in this timeline, the teachers saw how cracked Deku was getting, and so they paired everyone else up but left him solo. Will I explain how that works? No. Either way, Deku vs All Might solo. Because all of them train together, I've made Bakugo and Todoroki too cracked to do a 2v1, so that's pretty much why I'm doing a 1v1. Plus it'd be cooler. Anyways, Deku and the class would be paired up. The rest of the fight's going as usual until Deku finally rolled up, being put last. He stretches and walks out of the fake city, scanning around the place to see a huge center road. So he's down there, huh? He thinks for a second or two, trying to come up with a strategy until the bell is rung and he notices a little something coming down the road. He looks up, seeing the road peeling backwards and shooting towards him at top speed. His eyes go wide, jumping up with his hands pre-out in the shape of a toad. His shadow overlaps the floor, being carved up underneath him. It spins before two toads hop out of it. One sits on the side of a building and one sits on the top. As Deku begins falling, one catches him, pulling him and holding him up above as he starts sensing someone else. All Might. Deku, sensing All Might was coming, would dip. The toad throws him to the other one, catching him and holding him up as All Might finally makes himself known. He scans the area with the most serious face he could muster. Deku kinda gets chills from this. He never knew All Might could be so intimidating. Deku sits, staring on before finally summing up the courage. He pushes past it and forms another hand sign. I hope this works. As he does, he's thrown across the top of a building by his toad. His shadow envelops All Might, who was still searching across the floor. Ah, so there you are. He looks down, noticing his shadow had been completely swallowed up. He looks up, seeing what could only be described as a blob falling towards him. It falls quicker and quicker. All Might, not being able to dodge, would put his hands up instead. Deku smirks from above, falling midair before summoning UA. He dive bombs down as quick as possible, shooting down the side of the building as it finally hits All Might. Max Elephant. He catches it and right away is slammed into the ground, the earth below him cracking and creaking, his legs feeling weaker by the second. Right as he catches it, Deku appears next to him. His hands spark with cursed energy, pumping 50% full Kaling into it. His fist burns bright as he clocks it back, slamming it forward and connecting right in the middle of All Might's stomach. Deku, having been so locked into the battle, would see something different happening. His cursed energy at the point of impact would fluctuate, one for all, pushing his body to move quicker than his cursed energy would make his cursed energy spark black. His fist is enveloped with dark lightning as he slams All Might. All Might feels the punch, throwing up breakfast, lunch and dinner. He's shot backwards, flying almost back to where he came from at the start of the battle. He's unable to catch himself or anything, just completely ragdolled. As he's flying, Deku looks down. He stares at his hands. He could see everything so clearly. He saw the individual dust particles between his fingertips, all of his cursed energy, the world around him. It was like he'd been going into fights blind this entire time. He feels his true cursed energy potential, feeling and sensing everything around him. The kids watching, the teachers and even the animals. He opens and closes his fist. People in the stands going nuts. The camera zoomed in on All Might, who'd coughed a little bit of blood. Closes his eyes. In his mind, he finally saw it. The perfected version of his innate domain. All Might hops up from the floor. Wow, kid. I didn't know you could hit so hard. Yeesh. Well, I guess I don't need these anymore. He looks at his wrist and unlocks the weights on him. The weights drop to the floor like Rock Lee's. All Might dropping his signature pose and laughing, this time with a villainous look in his eye. Deku feels his malice, feeling his power shoot up out of nowhere. He looked up and looked directly at him. The city fell silent before All Might appeared. He sent one solid punch in the direction of Deku. Instantly it cleared the dust that was piled up, sending all the rubble flying and completely tearing the road from the earth. In about a 50-meter radius, everything bar them was completely destroyed. In an instant, All Might teleports right in front of Deku, doing nothing but staring him down. Deku tries to attack, but he's dodged. All Might standing behind him on some Goku timing. Before Deku can even think, All Might slams him in the head with an elbow. Deku, having just activated One for All in time, would tank it, flying right into the floor and sinking down like 10 meters. All Might lands on the ground, doing his signature laugh. Is that really all you got, hero? Deku smirks, dusting himself off and hopping out the hole he was just encased in. Hell nah, I'm just getting started. He pumps his cursed energy out as much as he could before compressing it down right around his body, using it as like a shield or something. Sorry, my bad. The ground below him shook a little bit as Deku stacked One for All on top of it. All Might sits and watches as Deku powers up, having only felt fear. As he saw Deku powering up, all he could think of was All for One. He smiles a wicked smile as Deku moves, quicker than he can even see, making a hand sign before jumping up and doing a backflip for Aura. All Might sees him midair, putting his hands up to counter as Deku midair summons Nue. He lands on his back, touching it and surging with cursed energy. All Might watches as it screeches before growing to the size of a house. Wings grow a bright, familiar light before flickering off. Wait a second, that's too easy. Jumps back down again, desummoning Nue and staring All Might down. How about I beat you at your game instead? He lowers his stance, putting his hands out in front of him. All Might's confused by this. Are you sure, young? He's cut off, seeing Deku's fingertips shaking and water beginning to come out. He remembers back to the sports festival, his match versus Todoroki. It was too late. Deku slices from the top to bottom, hitting All Might across the chest from his left shoulder to his right hip. His costume rips and his skin is slightly cut, but not too bad. More like a scrape or something. Deku seeing this is shocked. Shit. He jumps back, bringing his hands out in front of him as rabbits begin to pour out. All Might in an instant is surrounded by rabbits, all of them locking in like when he versed Toji. Well, like when Megumi versed Toji, you know. Deku runs away, charging One for All through himself, hiding in the shadows. Having just hit a black flash, his mastery over cursed energy was on another level. He feels his Shikigami as he closes his eyes, feeling One for All as it tries to extend to them. As he does this, the rabbits begin glowing a little, One for All being charged throughout them. Only at about 2 to 3%, but still. All Might for like a minute straight starts boxing with these rabbits. Camera zooming in and getting some sick angles. The rabbits straight jumping in before Deku finally decides to show himself. As he closed his eyes, he kept seeing the same dream, seeing it as clear as day now. As All Might finally beat the last rabbit, Deku emerged from his shadow. All Might stares as he opens his eyes, staring at his feet. He felt different. He saw his shadow moving and twitching, like it was trying to communicate with him. He decided to once again go in, falling into his shadows, leaving All Might standing there confused. While in his shadows, he comes to a realization, one he couldn't see until now. He once again comes out, this time with a different vibe. All Might notices this right away, getting ready to attack before Deku forms a new hand sign. Todoroki and Bakugo in the camera room stare on. What's that? I've never seen him use that one. Have you? Bakugo shakes his head, shocked look on his face. Them, the teachers, and the principal stare on as Deku's shadow begins expanding. All Might seeing this is shocked. What? He can use his shadows now? He lunges at Deku, not wanting to fall in until in an instant they were both trapped. Deku's shadow forming a sphere around them, casting complete darkness over them. All Might could only see Deku, and Deku could only see All Might. Deku finally opened his eyes, staring at All Might as he was mid-attack. He throws the attack at Deku, but it goes right through him, his form turning into a shadow as All Might finally hits the floor. Because he can't walk on water, he can't float in Deku's domain, so right away he sinks. He feels himself falling into nothingness. With nothing to grab onto or push off of, he cannot swim. All he can do is fall. Now, because of this, I can see All Might yielding there and then. And due to that, we don't see the full effects of the domain just yet, sadly. In the end, Deku takes the W against All Might, all alone, having hit Black Flash and even unlocked his domain. Though he hasn't completely tried it yet, Deku feels his new powers, walking through the passing gate and holding his hand up in victory. The class is stunned, seeing how Deku used his quirk. Every time he fought, it seemed he unlocked something new. It was crazy. Deku's quirk was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Bakugo and Todoroki rush at Deku. Bakugo speaking up. Dude, what the hell was that? All we could see was a big sphere. Thanks for blocking all the action, yeesh. Todoroki then cuts in. Yeah, and what was that black lightning stuff you hit All Might with at the start? That was crazy. Deku once again looks at his hands. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know. A lot of the stuff just happened all at once. I still gotta process it myself. They hear this and let him go. Deku taking the afternoon to sit and meditate again. He thinks about everything. His cursed energy, how his quirk works, the black flash he just hit. It all rushes around his mind until he would be broken out of it by Inko coming in, waking him up and telling him dinner is ready. They sit and eat, Deku telling Inko about what happened and how his quirk is kind of going weird all of a sudden. She actually encourages him, telling him that she knows he's gonna figure it out and that his quirk's always been like that, it's always been weird. Deku hearing this gets motivated, deciding he was gonna use all of his spare time before class to figure everything out. The next day was a Saturday. Deku right away rushing over to the forest near his house, getting a nice flash of deja vu as he walked inside. He thinks about how far he's gotten, bringing a smile to his face before he locks back in. Now, he puts his hand out in front of him, doing the same hand signs as what he did when he fought All Might, closing his eyes and concentrating. In his mind, he saw it. The same thing he'd been seeing since he was a kid. He visualized it, picturing it filling the space just around him, opening his eyes and bringing it forward. To his surprise, it would actually work. Like when he fought All Might, his shadow twists and opens, swallowing up everything in the forest around him completely. Everything fell silent, completely drained and pitch black. He looks around him, feeling the same warm sensation he felt in his dreams. It felt nice, kind of weirdly familiar. Knowing it was a part of his quirk, he decides to try summoning. He makes the hand size for totality, which, to his surprise, weren't even needed. Just the thought of totality wanting to appear would make him appear. It stands in front of Deku, connected to the floor. He walks around it, checking it out. It seemed the same. Then he summons Nue. Once again it appeared instantly. No hand signs, no cursed energy. Smirk grows over Deku's face, deciding to test how far he could push it. All that afternoon, Deku does nothing but sit in his domain, pushing his cursed energy to the max, having it open for so long. Sorry, training his energy to the max, having it open for so long. My bad, Jesus. But in the end, he figured it out. A trump card in his arsenal. Either way, that was the whole weekend. Deku did nothing but train on his domain. That's all he did on the Saturday, and on the Sunday he decided to train on his cursed energy. Having hit Black Flash, he could fine-tune it now, which could make him much more efficient and even minimize the summoning cost for each Shikigami. From there, he goes back to school, walking through the hallways and opening the door to Aizawa already teaching the class. Deku walked in, looking more tired than he'd ever been. Aizawa was impressed by this. Look who decided to bless us with his presence. Deku gives him a half wave before sitting back down at his desk. Bakugo to his left starts laughing at him, as does Todoroki, until Aizawa finally cuts him off. As I was saying, now that you completed your final exams, you'll be going to the forest training camp. The class celebrates hearing this. Everyone having gotten their papers pre-signed would right away get on the bus and head on over. Deku in this timeline sleeps the entire way, like you would expect, until they would stop right on the top of the mountain. Deku's shaken awake and walked outside by Bakugo, sitting and adjusting to the sun as the teachers explain the whole making your own way there, that whole thing. Deku hears this, rolling his eyes knowing they were on some BS, sensing the attack from behind as they're lifted into the air by the mud and dirt and stuff. The whole class gets thrown off the edge. Deku, thinking quick, would summon Nue, pumping as much curse energy into it as he could. It spawns in with outstretched wings, catching the entire class in one fell swoop. Aizawa and the cats look off at the edge of the mountain. Should have expected that. Deku flies the entire class back up before dropping him off, sitting on Nue and watching as they pull the same trick again. This time, he sits and watches them plummet, about to help them till Aizawa tells him to stop. He flies back down and is told to get back on the bus, Aizawa not wanting him to carry him too much, so he would just be on the bus the entire time. In the end, he gets there early, and due to this, he has to help them cook. In this timeline, he would also find and start talking to a little kid named Koda. Now, because Deku isn't a goody two-shoes like Deku is in canon, I think Koda would kind of respect him and see him as a friend more. You know, his whole aura is a little bit different, you know. Eventually the rest of the class makes it. Todoroki and Bakugo seething. Deku didn't have to do anything. The entire class starts complaining, which Aizawa shuts down, telling them he's been doing something. He opens the door to find a table full of food pre-set up for them. They all eat and right away go to bed. Deku though, because he didn't do the run, would instead go out to train. Training for about 5 minutes until someone would walk out. Aizawa. He wraps Deku in his cloth. What are you doing out here? It's 1 AM. Deku looks back at him. Yeah, but I didn't do that run thing. I've got way too much energy. Aizawa rolls his eyes. Yeah, I'm usually up late too. I get you, kid. Well, may as well waste some energy here, right? He gets in a fighting stance. Deku watching as under the cover of night he sees Aizawa's 2 eyes lighting red, feeling his quirk had been cancelled. Aizawa goes in. He ain't holding nothing back. He uses everything, slamming Deku in the ribs with elbows, kicks. This is Deku's first time being quirkless, so it felt weird. They straight sit and box for 5 minutes straight. Deku getting clobbered if I'm being completely real. Don't get me wrong, he got some punches in, but Aizawa's been doing this for a lot longer. Either way, after just 5 minutes, Deku was dead. He waddled back to his room and sat inside, drifting off. But this time, waking up in another world. Not in his innate domain, but inside One For All. He opens his eyes, staring around the place. A platform with 7 chairs and what seemed like nothing. They all turn around to show the 7 previous wielders of his quirk, some looking worried. The first to talk is Nana Shimura. So, you finally made it. We would have reached out to you sooner, but every time we did, it was black. Deku gets an image of his domain in his mind, being shaken back to them as she continues. You see, you're about to be at 60% full scaling at this point. Not too bad, but I'm worried about your body if you go any further. Another stands up, the black whip guy. Yeah, kid, you gotta slow it down, little sheesh. You go any further and your body's gonna blow up on you. The rest of them nod, Deku putting his face in his hands. So, you're telling me I can't go any further than 60%. All of them nod once more, Nana beginning to talk. Though you can't go past 60%, I feel like we can give you these without an issue. Deku's confused, watching as they hold their arm out. Deku wakes up in a sweat, his arm reached out just like them with One For All rushing through it. What the hell was that? He looks around him, seeing papers scattered around the room, pillows all over the floor, and a blanket completely kicked off of him. What a weird dream, sheesh. He gets all his stuff off the floor, checking the time to see it was 5 AM already. He groans, knowing they were going to have to get up soon anyway, deciding to just get ready. He does so, getting out of his little dorm and going for a run. As he does so, he sits in his mind, thinking about his dream. It seemed so real. He held his arm out, pushing One For All into it at 60%. So, I can't go any further than this, huh? Damn. As he pushes out One For All, something begins leaking out of his arm. A black tendril. He stops in his tracks, staring at his arm. The forest was dead silent around him. He looked at his shadow, thinking it was just a new thing in his quirk, but this seemed different. Again, he closes his eyes, trying to push it out more, but once again, he's dragged into his mindscape. He sees the same platform, looking at the previous wielders. The black whip guy stands up. Damn kid, sheesh! Wait a little bit, what's the hurry? As you probably figured out, what just happened wasn't your quirk. Deku nods his head slowly as it finally clicks. Oh, so you meant that dream was... Nana stands up. You gotta learn to trust your dreams more, kid. But yes, you now have our quirks too. It seems you can handle them though. They're a lot stronger than we had them originally. Deku scans the place again. So, what am I working with here? You know, having 9 summons and 7 quirks is going to be a pain to handle, right? They giggle a little bit before all explaining their quirks. You know, float, smokescreen, Fajin, black whip, gear shift, danger sense, you know, all them. They all go into detail a little bit until he's shaken back to the real world by someone. Bakugo. Bakugo looks at him, hand on shoulder. Dude, what drugs did you take? I swear I've sat here and watched you staring off into space with your hand up for 5 minutes now. Deku rubs the back of his neck. Well, it's a long story. Walk with me. I think it's about time I told you anyway. Now, I completely forgot if Deku told Bakugo about One For All yet, because this series is crazy long, but he's about to find out. And he's about to be told about all the quirks of the previous users. Bakugo and him walk and he explains all of it. Bakugo's shocked. So, that's how you're so strong. Sheesh, good to know at least. They get out the forest, meeting up with Aizawa and class who were already ready for training. He gets yelled at a little bit before being sent out to do their own thing. Now, Deku in this timeline would go to the forest alone, saying you want to test some more dangerous stuff out in the open area where no one could get hurt. Aizawa would low-key agree to this, walking him to the middle of the forest, marking it on a GPS before walking back, leaving him completely alone. Deku now had the floor to himself, no one within 1 kilometer. Once again he breathes in, closing his eyes. He goes deep into his mind, entering this One For All landscape once more. Well, any tips before I start? They look around at each other. I think it's better if we do it this way. He goes back to reality. Like Deku when he's walking the streets in Season 6, he has the predecessors. You know, kind of like ghosts around him, you know that? When he's in like Season 6 and he's talking to him like a little schizo. Anyways, he's able to talk to him in real time. Using this, he would start training with their quirks. He starts off the first day with the easy ones like float, smokescreen, black whip, and a little bit of danger sense training on top of it. with Totality as a training partner. Over the first day, he gets decent hold of all of them, getting a point where he could control, a solid amount of it, but not doing the manga stuff because, yeesh. He's picked up Aizawa and taken back to class, sitting and eating dinner before going to bed. The next day rolls around. Deku once again goes off to the forest, flying on Yue before finding the same spot, once again training his quirks, this time trying to work on Fajin and Gear Shift. Though he finds this a lot harder than he thought, especially Gear Shift. As he's working on these, he gets an idea, summoning Totality as he focuses up, putting his hand on him and closing his eyes. But that's for later on. Either way, Deku would low-key just train that day off and sleep the night off until finally the third day would come around. Now, Deku on this third day gets a weird vibe, feeling like he'd been watched for some weird reason. He puts it off in his mind and eats brekkie before once again going to his spot in the woods. As he trained, he swore he could feel someone close to him. He looked around the place, but no one. Confused, he continues on, working on the same stuff as yesterday until the night would come around. All the class lines up for the haunted forest thing, Deku being alone like usual because those bums failed those exams, He walks alone into the forest as the final group, looking around the place. It was kinda eerie. It had a weird vibe he just couldn't shake. He gets random chills down his spine. Class 1B students watching him from a distance, they start to laugh it up. Look at the scaredy cat. Yeesh, really, he has all that strength, but you're afraid of the dark? This is until they watch as Deku all of a sudden locks in, danger sense kicking in. Right away, he makes a hand sign and flies above the trees with Nue. From above the tree line, he scans the place, seeing fire like usual. While he's up there, he closes his eyes, sensing as far as he could. He felt all the teachers and students, and, to his horror, more. Right away, he goes back into the direction he came, rushing over to the teachers and giving him a much needed heads up, which would also be a lot earlier than in canon. Aizawa was warned about 5 minutes before Darby would attack. Deku, after delivering this news, we get a shock down the back of his spine, a headache forming as Deku's danger sense shoot throughout him. He drops to the floor before looking up right at the mountain. Koda. Right away, he pushes through it, getting on Nue and flying over at top speeds. He pushes Nue to the max, forcing 15% one for all through it, along with float, which he was working on for those last 2 days. Which is what he was working on for the last 2 days. Doing this, he gets there in about 5 seconds, landing and looking around the place. Koda, quick, we gotta go, there's some freak around here, I just know it. He's cut off by a voice. Who you calling freak, kid? I'm just here to play. He walks around from the rock, putting a fake eye in his socket. Deku looks at him. Who the hell are you? Why are you even here? Muscular laughs. Huh, you really think you're gonna get answers out of me, kid? You lost your whole damn mind! He jumps at 2 of them, Deku getting a shock of danger sense right through him, throwing himself and Koda out to the right, barely dodging. Muscular stands over the 2 of them. Hey, you're pretty quick, kid. But how about this? He stacks muscles on his hands and arms, putting them back above his head. He straight clobbers the floor where the 2 of them were. Deku would have summoned his toads to grab the both of them from the back, just barely dodging. This time though, he stands up. Leave the kid out of it. Your fight's with me. Muscular laughs right in his face. All I've seen you do is dodge, kid. But fine, I'll play your game. He gets in a stance, as does Deku, Koda watching from the side as 2 titans were about to clash. Deku breathes in slowly, one for all coursing throughout his entire body at 60%. He cackles with energy, looking at Koda before putting a thumbs up. As he does this, Muscular jumps. You're open, kid! He slams Deku with a punch, which to his surprise was completely blocked. Deku's hands up, having caught the fist. Don't think I'm gonna take this easy. And don't think you're getting a cheap shot like that again! He throws Muscular's fist up, sending Muscular into the air a little bit. Deku lowers himself, bringing his arm back and forward about 6 times as quick as possible. Muscular looks down as Deku's arm glows red. Shin! He slams a punch right into Muscular's chest, a punch that knocks every ounce of air out of it. He does the whole that slaps thing. Deku starting to walk him down before he starts laughing. Deku watching on as more and more muscles start coating his entire body. You're dead now, kid. You're gone. You're finished. He jumps at Deku so quick that he can barely react, dodging a punch that Muscular threw before lowering himself. His shadow lit by the moonlight twitches before opening up right under Muscular's leg. His footing slips and Muscular throws a second attack right at the floor. As he fell through the floor, he looked down. Deku, seeing this, smiles. You're open! He stands up from his crouch position, slamming Muscular in the chin with a kick as he does so. Deku made him look down so he could kick him in the... Yeah. Muscular once again gets airtime by this. Koda watching as Deku makes another hand sign. Now, flatten him! Koda looked around. Nothing was happening until he saw something. A shadow overtaking Muscular's. As Muscular was midair and falling, something fell from above. A huge ass elephant! It slams Muscular in the air, sending him right into the floor. His entire body left and dented into the earth. Koda sees this, watching with tears in his eyes. Deku looks back over him. Well, I'm glad I got here in time, kid. Come on, let's go. He de-summons Max Elephant, summoning Nue in his place and hopping on Makoto. He sends an arm out to a conked out Muscular's direction, sending Black Whip to scoop him up and tie him up completely. With this, Deku had beat Muscular, and the only damage he got was from overusing his technique and losing curse energy. That's like legit it. He soars down back to where the teachers were, looking around at the place. It seemed calm. One villain tried to attack them, but they all got taken out pretty quick. Remember, Stain wasn't really a thing in this timeline, so that DEKU guy and probably 50% of the other league members don't join. What still happens though is the forest fire. And the fights in the forest, my bad. Deku can feel his classmates fighting, dropping Muscular and Koda off before soaring off once more. Aizawa in this timeline letting him go. Knowing he can handle himself, he flies above the tree line, sensing people out. He looks for the strongest opponent, flying down and seeing Todoroki and Bakugo fighting some guy with a weird blade quirk. He smirks seeing them fighting together, flying in a circle above them before deciding to take desperate measures. He flies upwards, people completely unaware of this. He stops and senses out everything. Malice, unfamiliar powers, anything like that, before Nue opens its wings. From about 2 kilometers in the air, Deku begins charging his attack. Some people clock this, seeing a light forming in the sky. Bakugo and Todoroki smirk seeing this. Huh, damn show off. They dip, starting to run away. Deku putting his hands on Nue, you know what to do. Charges Nue with One for All and Hella Cursed energy. It grows and its wings cackle with electricity until boom! Like Sukuna, he rains down lightning on everyone, not a single villain being able to dodge, all getting smited from above. All bar one. From the mountainside where Deku fought Muscular, stood another man. He stared up into the sky, feeling Deku's power. One day, that quirk will be mine. He leaves through a portal, having got what he came for. Ragdoll's search quirk. In this timeline, every villain is defeated bar All for One, and no one is taken, but people are still hurt. Deku heals a couple of them up with Round Ear before the police and heroes come. They lock a lot of them up, but find Ragdoll in a comatose state. All Might hears this and right away knows what happens, pulling Deku aside and telling him about All for One. They get back to school like usual, the training camp having been cut short due to the interference. People were kind of bummed, but you know, what can you do? Deku goes back home, laying in his bed and staring at the ceiling. Though he did well, he knows he let All for One go. He didn't even know he was there. That scared Deku to no end. When he eventually goes to bed, he has a vision. A vision of All for One's creation, along with One for All. Ending a vision off with a couple of words that swirled around in Deku's head. A transcendent one soon approaches. He wakes up in a sweat once again, staring at his hands. He had to get stronger. He knows something big was about to go down, sooner than he even thought. He goes to school the next day, people looking around at the place. They all thanked him for saving them, but they didn't know what he knew. All he could think of was those words he heard last night. He shouldn't be here. He gets up, about to walk out the door until Aizawa comes in. He stares at Deku, seeing the distraught face he was pulling. Everyone sit down. Deku, go take 5. You look like a ghost. He stares, nods, and walks out the door, walking to go get a drink of water until someone came and touched his shoulder. He spun quickly, getting into combat stance, seeing it was just All Might. What's wrong, kid? I saw you walking down the hallway. Thought I'd say hi. Deku looks at him, shoulders dropping. All Might, can we talk? He nods slowly before Deku takes him into a private room. In the room, he explains everything that was on his mind. How he now has the quirks of the previous users to train. How One for All's capped at 60%. His dream and vision last night. And the final Shikigami he's yet to summon. All Might takes us in all at once. Eyes going blank. Sheesh, I can see why you're worrying now, kid. That's a lot on your plate at once. Come with me. I think I know a guy. He dips from Aizawa's class completely. Walking with All Might to the principal's office. Walking inside. He looks around the place. It was super clean. Nezu sat at his desk on his computer. Oh, hello All Might. Oh, and Midoriya? What seems to be the problem? Here, have a seat. Let me brew some tea. He does so, all three of them getting comfy as Deku once again explains everything, going into detail. A lot more detail than he went with All Might. He tells Nezu about every sentence, every word spoken in his dream. Going into detail the quirks he just acquired, along with all the new powers he's figured out since they last talked. Nezu sits perplexed, his superhuman mind spinning with a million questions before it came to a clear choice of actions. You said the last Shikigami you had access to was called Mahoraga, right? Deku nods. And that it can adapt to any and all phenomenon. Anything at all. Deku continues nodding. So, that should be our main objective then, though. If you get access to that, it solves all our issues. You can adapt to One for All's power and push it past 60%, and it gives you much needed leverage against this transcendent one. It all clicks in Deku's mind. Of course, it only made sense, but was it worth it? He knows that if he can't beat this thing, they're cooked. They all talk that afternoon, weighing up the options. Deku low-key afraid of it. Like, he's OP, don't get me wrong, but if he slips up, he's done. In the end, they try and push it back as far as possible, giving Deku a week or so to train before they all join up and help him fight. From there, they all split up their class and do resumes. Deku completely absent from that whole week. For the first day or two, it wasn't bad, but after that, people started worrying, especially Todoroki and Bakugo. They tried asking Aizawa, but he too was in the dark. Over time, they started worrying, thinking he was dead or being a vigilante or something. A couple of days turning into a full week. During this time, Deku would be training on one thing in particular: gear shift, figuring it was kind of his ticket out and that it was going to be the best thing to deliver the final blow. Nezu would be working in the background too, trying to figure out the best heroes to back Deku up in his fight. He figures some out, but every time he calls, they ignore him. They know the risk, and due to that, they don't want anything to do with it. It finally hits the 1 week mark, and Deku makes his way to the spot they agreed on. Getting there and finding himself completely alone, he stares at the place, taking a huge breath in. Nezu and All Might make it there about a minute later, finding the place empty too. All Might complains, calling everyone fake heroes. Nezu about to call it off until Deku stops him. He told them it's fine, and that he's going to go in solo. He kind of wanted to do a clean 1v1 type of situation, you know. Plus, he had too much help with a couple of the last Shikigami, so... Anyways, Deku walks into the fake city, Nezu and All Might standing back as he clears an area for himself. He musters up all the cursed energy he can, summoning Nue and Totality off the bat. They stand behind him as he begins the ritual. He lowers himself down onto one knee, bringing his arm up in front of him. The sky above him darkens and swells with clouds. The lights in the fake city destroyed, flickering on before bursting. His shadow below him opens, calmly, silently. It fills an area about 20 by 20 meters around him in every single direction, everything being turned pitch black. He holds both hands out in front of him, closing the fist, pumping all the cursed energy he needed throughout himself. Eyes close as he takes one huge breath in. With this treasure, I summon. The shadow around him clears, All Might and Nezu standing horrified. From it comes a line of Shikigami, toads and his demon dogs all staring up into the sky. The Shikigami he summoned earlier slowly kneel before bowing their heads, something that sent a chill down Deku's spine. In an instant, the line of Shikigami dissipated along with the two behind him, taken in as a sacrifice to summon Mahoraga. A cocoon of it appears right behind Deku, who still sat in his summoning pose. All Might and Nezu feel the power of it exuding even already. Strings held it down, all pinned to the floor around Deku. Deku's shadow slowly creeps back in on him as he continues. 8-grip sword, Divergent Scylla, Divine General, Mahoraga. There was no coming back from here. From behind Deku, the cocoon cracked, a mouth appearing atop it. The once tight cords wrapping it droop. Light breeze coming over the city as the cocoon fully cracks. Deku stands ready, jumping back and turning as it fully creaks and cracks its way through. Alright, let's do this. He gets into fighting stance, lowering himself as Mahoraga locks on. Right away, Deku jumps into the air, summoning Nue from below him. The two of them fly into the air as Deku summons another piercing ox. It rushes in the opposite direction and rears a corner from the floor as Mahoraga jumps frantically. Deku charges Nue with as much energy as he can, pumping it not into the size but into power. Nue glows blue before humming a light green, its lightning being charged by One for All. It waits until Mahoraga jumps, slamming it with a full-powered lightning strike point-blank range. Mahoraga is sent to the floor, slamming down before almost instantly getting back up. Deku listening in as he hears the chime of a bell, the tick of a clock. He looks down, seeing Mahoraga shaking that attack off. He knows he's got to be quick. Almost instantly, he dive bombs on Nue, pumping Nue with 40% full cowling before using gear shift on it to accelerate it even quicker. This sends the two of them flying, blitzing Mahoraga completely and sending a mean kick right into its gut. Once again, it's sent flying. Deku, knowing he has limited time before it adapts, would rush in too. He sees it flying backwards. Thinking quick, he would make the hand signs for Max Elephant, along with Rabbit Escape, binding Mahoraga with Rabbit Escape as Max Elephant drops from above it. Mahoraga frantically fights the rabbits, using its sword to slice them all up in about half a second, before Max Elephant slams it in the head. At first he's crushed, falling onto one knee, before once again Deku hears it. All Might from the sidelines is scared. Shit, that's 2 turns. Come on, kid. Deku jumps back in 45% full cowling. This time, Mahoraga keeps up. It slams Deku with a punch before sending a wind slice right at him. Deku tanks the punch, getting his footing back and jumping up into the air. He does a handspring into a backflip before making the piercing blood symbol. Mahoraga follows close, about to send a punch as his fingers begin dribbling a little bit of water. Before Mahoraga can react, it's shot by a pressurized lot of water, charged with One for All for extra pressure. This hits Mahoraga and gives it a huge hole in its side. It stumbles back a little bit, drenched in water and bleeding a little bit. Deku thinks quick. Nue, get him! Nue floating from above charges another lightning bolt, which Deku sends from the heavens. Mahoraga is hit dead on. Deku watching as it stumbles forward, completely ignoring the lightning. Deku, not expecting this, was slammed in the face by an attack. He's sent flying backwards, almost knocked out just by that. Looking at the floor as Nue comes closer. As Mahoraga comes closer, it goes to grab Deku, slowly healing from the water attack, but Deku's able to dodge. He grabs onto the talon of Nue using Black Whip, flying up once more to get a better view and trying to get a breather. Mahoraga from the floor finally finishes adapting, looking up at Deku and jumping up, this time even quicker. It jumps up to him, this time getting there even quicker. It catches up to him, grabbing onto his leg, twisting it midair, which snaps it in two. Deku's shocked seeing its speed, feeling the pain of the break instantly. Feeling this, he uses gear shift on himself, putting himself in first gear. He stops instantly in the middle of the air, Mahoraga flying past him as Deku grabs him with Black Whip. He uses the momentum Mahoraga had to swing him and send him flying right down at the floor again. As it's flying to the floor, Deku summons Totality from below him, waiting until last second before piercing it right through the chest. Though very hard to do, it does work. Mahoraga sits there like a shish kebab on Totality's claw, Deku watching as its wheel was about to spin. It's about time. From above, he sees Piercing Ox rushing around the corner, having done a full lap of the city while charging up Fajin, getting quicker and quicker by the second. It rears the corner, doing a line right at Mahoraga. Deku from above dive bombs on Nue again, using gear shift again to speed himself up before slowing himself down last second. He reaches out and touches Mahoraga, putting him in first gear. His wheel stops turning midway, completely stuck still for a second as Deku jumps back. Knowing timing was everything, he made a hand sign. All Might and Nezu watch on as his shadow once again overtakes them. This time, the shadow of his domain. Mahoraga was completely paralyzed for about one more second and inside Deku's domain. Right away, Deku fades into his shadows, watching as Piercing Ox finally makes it. It runs into the domain, becoming Deku's can't miss attack, slamming into the back of Mahoraga, its bottom half completely decimated. Piercing Ox, using One For All and Fajin to gain hella power along with being a can't miss attack, would decimate Mahoraga. Deku sees this, knowing it wasn't over. He would charge One For All up into 60% full cowling, looking at a half crippled Mahoraga on the floor, sinking into his domain. Deku cocks his fist back before slamming it forward right into Mahoraga's head. He slams about 6 punches into it in an instant, all at 60% while using Fajin too. The combo of Piercing Ox and Deku's attack was enough to finally beat Mahoraga, but Deku was beaten and bruised too. His leg was completely cooked and twisted, and he was losing a lot of blood from his nose. He got slammed about 4 times, but thankfully it was finally all over. He uses the rest of his strength to summon Round Deer, slumping to the floor as it deposits every ounce of cursed energy it had into Deku again. Deku feels a lot better, having his face having healed and his leg getting there, but not completely. Right after this, he conks out onto the floor, blood pooling around him. Nezu and All Might rush over, picking him up with huge smiles on their face. They bring him into Recovery Girl, who reprimands them both before finally starting to heal him. He drifts in and out of consciousness for the next 2 days, his leg being slowly healed by Recovery Girl in this time. He sits in his domain, surrounded by all his Shikigami. He stared at Mahoraga, looking at the wheel above his head. So, you're the key, huh? As he's in his mind, something comes over him, a voice. This time coming from One For All. He follows the voice in his comatose state, following it back to the One For All world. This time, he's told that the Transcended One had finally woken up. He hears this. In his head, a sharp pain goes through it, enough to wake him up. To his surprise, there were no one around him. No doctors, no nurses, no Inko or All Might. The hospital room was dead silent, tiles cold on the floor. He rubs his head before sitting up, another sharp pain forcing him back down as once again a voice shoots through his head. Get up! He forces through the pain, sitting up and taking out the drips he had spiked into his arm. Off bat, he summons Round Deer, watching as it spawned in front of him, bending its head down and offering Deku a healing orb. Deku touches it, energy flowing back into him, healing the rest of the damage off. He felt rejuvenated. He desummons Round Deer before finding some water, taking a huge drink in and locking back in. He closes his eyes, focusing on his danger sense quirk. He sensed around him all the energy of everyone, where they were at, what they were doing. He senses a huge battlefield already going down, this being the Battle of Jakku. Deku, having fought Mahoraga, would have slept through the first bit. He senses everyone's presence, finding all his classmates were still alive and well before he felt something that felt otherworldly. A power so great it made his look insignificant. Shigaraki. He opens his eyes and stares off in that direction, staring at an open window directly towards Shigaraki. Shigaraki off in the distance does the same, locking in on Deku as the two of them start to move towards each other. Deku jumps out the window, summoning Nue and booking it. He pumps Nue with 40% one for all, shooting at top speeds before on its back, he summons another. He makes the same hand signs as before, taking a knee and closing his fists. Mahoraga. On the back of Nue, his shadow slowly opened. From it came a creature. Deku watches on as it kind of aura farms for a little bit, coming out as slow as possible. It finally fully comes out, Deku right away getting to know its power. He had like 2 minutes tops before they met in the middle. As he flies, he tries some stuff out, keeping contact with Mahoraga while pushing himself over 60%. As he did so, he could feel himself tearing apart, his muscles breaking and snapping in his body. Right away, he lowered it, wincing in pain. How do I... Then it comes to him. With 30 seconds left, Deku figures it out. Shigaraki falls to the floor, bouncing up in the air. It's you! It's finally you! You know how long I've waited for this! He stares at Deku's, essence thing with Ragdoll's quirk, watching as in the distance, Deku becomes visible. Standing on Nue like Star and Stripe stood on those jets. Deku smiled a nervous smile, opening his stance a little bit, constantly pumping curse energy through the wheel that sat above his head. They lock eyes, Deku de-summoning Nue, beginning to fall. It's been a while, freak. How about I kick your ass? Shigaraki laughs, sending another arm out. Repulse, plus air cannon, plus air wave, plus kinetic booster times 6. Deku sees his arm twitches, enlarging before a city-destroying attack is sent right at him. Deku senses this with danger sense, right away dipping, using Black Whip and floating. His eyes open wide, slowly turning and looking back at the city that had been completely destroyed behind him. He locks in, the wheel on top of him beginning to creak, before Deku turns and looks at Shigaraki. Time to speed things up. Deku begins pumping himself, pushing himself from 60 to 70%, his bones breaking with every moment, muscles tearing with every second. Shigaraki stares on, watching as Deku powered up. What do you think this is, kid, a video game? You think you're gonna go Super Saiyan or something? Until he hears it. The toll bell, the ticking of the clock. He stares Deku down, noticing his body changing, getting more condensed yet more ripped. Having seen the wheel above Deku's head move, what the hell? One for all flowed throughout him constantly, getting upped by the second. He feels himself being repaired as he breaks himself. Using Mahoraga like Eri, he would finally do it. He finally reached 100%. Shigaraki right away notices the aura difference alone, figuring something was up. He wanted to kill Deku before that thing turned again. Knowing Deku must be adapting or something because of the changes he saw. Right away he lunges in, sending his arm out. Deku thinking quick, but sends out totality. He pumps it with 50% one for all. It gets in his way of the hit, getting melted instantly. Deku watches on as his dog turns to ash before him, getting flashbacks of his first demon dog. No! He powers up like a Super Saiyan, one for all crackling all directions around him. Dirt and debris begin lifting around him. Shigaraki laughs. Oops, hero. Sorry, was that? He's cut off. Deku kicking off the air and 100% would take Shigaraki off guard. He slams Shigaraki in the stomach with a kick so powerful it almost rips through him entirely. Shigaraki coughs blood, getting sent flying backwards. His regen kicking in as soon as he slams through a building. Deku floats, looking like Gojo post-awakening, the wheel above him creaking, almost ready to turn as Shigaraki gets up. Now you're dead. Dead! He slams his hand down, touching the building as he crashes into it. In an instant, it's decayed into nothingness. Deku watching people, plants, everything decay in front of him. Shigaraki starts laughing like a maniac. This blood is on your hands, hero, and I hope you know I'm getting you back for that kick. Deku's smile fades, Shigaraki jumping right at him, buffing his speed. He's in Deku's face in about half a second, Deku barely able to react, as once again, Shigaraki sends an arm out. Decay waves plus force quirk deactivation, plus air cannon. Deku's slammed by an attack at point blank range, his skin beginning to melt by the force as he's slammed into the floor. Shigaraki's decay still active on the floor, about to touch him. He's barely kept conscious after that attack, Mahoraga keeping him in the game. He gets up barely, swinging out of range of decay using Black Whip before summoning Round Deer and Rabbit Escape. Shigaraki stays floating in the air, watching from above as the streets fill with bunnies. What? Bunnies? Oh, you're trying to hide? Well, I hope you know I can see you. Deku and the bunny starts to heal using round deer before a splitting pain goes through his head. He barely dodges as Shigaraki pierces through the bunnies right in front of him. He locks in on Deku. You're lucky you can react quick. He sends a strike at Deku, which he goes to dodge, only to realize he wasn't aiming for him. Deku watches on, front row seats as round deer is decapitated in front of him. Deku, only midway through healing, would jump back. He summons Nue midair, grappling onto its talon with Black Whip. He coughs a little blood. Mahoraga once again keeping him alive. Just a little longer. Shigaraki begins laughing from the floor once more. It's pointless. Don't you get it? He jumps up, meeting Deku eye to eye. You're a bug to me. He gets above Deku, putting two arms above his head and clobbering Deku back down to the floor. He jumps off the air, flying down at top speed, sending a flying kick at Deku in the face. Deku's skull is almost caved in until once again, Shigaraki hears it. Deku on the floor lays there as the wheel ticks. Shigaraki, off of instinct, jumps back. Multiple danger center quirks telling him he would have died if he got any closer. Deku begins healing the damage, brushing the attacks off from before. Finally, he lowers himself down, doing a hand sign so quick Shigaraki couldn't even comprehend it. From above, Max Elephant falls. Having been buffed by One For All, it would be huge, like the size of a whole last football field. Deku, after summoning this, rushes in himself. Shigaraki able to keep up for about half a second before he's socked in the gut and kicked into the air. He's sent flying up, connecting with Max Elephant midair and getting slammed into the floor again. Max Elephant lays on him for a good second before disappearing into a black goo. Deku, having had just enough, would finally pull another hand sign. Shigaraki still on the floor as everything around him goes black. He can't see a single thing before finally a single light comes on. A small lamp hanging above his head, illuminating what could only be described as a colossal backbone. A giant ribcage lining the entire structure. Shigaraki looks around in awe, shocked before he starts sinking into the floor. Unlike All Might, he doesn't sink forever. He tries to grab onto the floor. This time it actually works. Shigaraki, having a quirk that allows him to walk on water, would allow him to stay afloat. He backs up, looking around him. It was just the two of them in a wide open area, but something seemed off. Deku sat across from him, completely healed of all of his injuries. Wheel still above his head and ready to spin any second. The light flickers a little bit before they both rush in, going even pace, throwing straight hands. Because Deku's in a domain, all of his hits are guaranteed, so Deku lands a hit after hit on Shigaraki. Shigaraki starts getting overwhelmed, taking hella damage and focusing only on healing until they both hear the giant wheel spinning. Deku feels himself getting even stronger, activating Fajin and Gear Shift on top of it. He slams 60 punches into Shigaraki in a second, storing up all the energy from the movement before sending a final haymaker shot right at Shigaraki's head. The combined power of Fajin and 100% One For All would create a punch so deadly, it went right through Shigaraki. Shigaraki tried to dodge last second, but it was too late. It pierced his heart, coming out the other side like a Mortal Kombat finisher. Deku stares on at Shigaraki as he touches his shoulder. Decay activating for a second before it flickered off. His domain drops, as does Shigaraki, dead on the floor. Deku had a decayed shoulder from that last attack, but that was about it. During the attack, he lost totality and round deer. In the end, he combines them two with orochi and makes a new summon, a stronger, quicker version, Agito. Right after the battle, First off, I just want to say thank you for 1k. It does mean a lot to me, I promise you. I never thought I would have hit it this quick, especially on what I can only describe as a niche fading side of YouTube. Anyway, it's been a fun ride. I've learned a lot from it and I promise you I'm only going to get better from here. A huge thank you to Zeta too. Loki carried me for about 3/4 of my subscribers, I'm pretty sure. And sorry that this video has taken so long to come out. I wrote pretty much 2 full what ifs and then scrapped them because the ideas didn't sit right with me. And as you can probably tell by the runtime, this is a lot longer than usual. Another huge thanks to Justin, I think that's how you say it. Genuinely the GOAT for letting me use this thumbnail. If you want to see more what ifs, check out his stuff. Genuinely, it's kind of crazy how he doesn't have any more subs. He puts tons of effort into his videos, you can tell. Anyways, if you want to check him out, he's going to be down below in the description. Either way, I'm going to finally get into the intro. Thank you once more. Megumi Potential Man Fushiguro. Where do I even start with this guy? I used to love this guy. Loved his technique, loved his fighting style. His power can rival Gojo's. Okay, bet. He pops a domain in season 1. Damn, okay, I see you. Megumi stocks used to be so high. How the mighty fall. As you can see, he's currently pulling out his trump card. What a sight to behold. Edit it so it looks like a zoo, by the way. And when he's like doing the hand signs, you know, make it like a Natural Geographic style. Anyways, had to get that off my chest. As you probably know, the 10 Shadows technique is versatile. It can cover all your bases and is cracked. And because that bum Megumi didn't use it right, I'm gonna give it to someone who will. Other than Sukuna. Me. Hope you end up liking this. I promise I'll do the power right. I know my stuff. If anything, I might do it too right. Like regular, if you end up liking this, drop a like, subscribe, and comment. And while you're down there, check out the playlist in the description and the Spotify linked in the comments. All that out the way, let's get right into it. Deku in this timeline would be a lot similar to in canon. Kinda quiet, not really the out there type. Growing up with his mum, Inko, alone in the same house as in canon, everything would stay pretty much the same up until the age of 4. Deku watches as everyone unlocks their quirks around him. Long fingers, fire, explosions. Deku was jealous and low-key a little bit envious, trying day in and day out to unlock his quirk with no luck. As the years go on, Deku begins losing hope. From the age of 4 to the age of 6, Deku tried everything he could to unlock it, still getting nowhere. At around this time, Deku and Bakugo would begin their normal dynamic as in canon. Bakugo finally getting sick of Deku being a quirkless loser would begin to bully him. Deku kinda being lost and still clinging to his dream would low-key just take it, never really feeling any type of way about it. And due to this, Bakugo would begin doing more and more to try and get a reaction out of him. Around a year would go by and eventually everything begins to weigh on Deku. How mean Bakugo was, why he even picked on him. Why was he even doing this anyways? If you're powerful, you should protect the weak, not the other way around. From there, his confusion turned to anger a little bit. One day, while Deku was sitting on the playground, he watches Bakugo pick on another kid. As he watches on, something inside him would unlock. The feelings he had been holding down all these years begin to boil up. Seeing Bakugo bully him was one thing, but to others was a whole different bag of worms. Deku stands up right away, clenching his fist, his hero spirit kicking in. As he stands up, something inside him begins to stir. His gut filling with rage would make the first signs of cursed energy for Deku. He clenches his fist harder than he'd ever clenched it. Cursed energy coats it. He had finally unlocked his power. From the sides, he starts to walk towards Bakugo, hands clenched. The people in the playground stop and stare, watching Deku approach. They all start to circle around him, feeling the tension start to build up and feeling an almost sinister energy coming off of Deku. Deku finally makes it there, getting his courage up before speaking. "Stop picking on that kid, Bakugo. What did he even do?" He gets in close, pushing Bakugo over, his attack slightly harder than usual. Bakugo straight away looks up at Deku. "What did you say to me, nerd?" He stands up, explosions cackling in his palms. "You know what? I'm gonna beat on you for that, Deku. It's about time I finally showed you your place anyway." Deku breathes heavy, his emotions finally getting the better of him. His curse energy sparks as off of instinct, Deku makes a hand sign, almost muscle memory to him. The sun beaming down on him would cast a shadow, which begins to darken and twist. Unbeknownst to Bakugo, who was only looking at Deku. In his mind, he was just pulling a silly pose or something. Seeing this, he right away lunges in at Deku. The onlookers' eyes bulging as they see two little dogs, one black and one white, coming from the floor out of Deku's shadow, my bad. What the? Deku! Without even saying anything, the two dogs jump up and grab onto each of Bakugo's arms. He begins to bleed, looking down to see them. Looking up again before finally getting blasted by a punch to the chin. Bakugo gets spun and falls to the floor, spitting a tooth out along with some blood. What the hell was that? By the time he looks back, they had both disappeared. Deku on the floor, panting from overexertion. The teachers rush out as Bakugo stands up once more, stopping the fight before it got restarted. They see a completely fine Deku on the floor with a blood.
Mother